All right, there we go. Technical difficulties. I had to restart the computer, as you probably saw there. And so we're going to, get all of our little ducks in a row and put together a program here that's going to include a visit from the school board president in Viroqua about the $0 in new state general aids, which really isn't helpful when there's rampant inflation out there. We'll also get a special visit from Dr. Kristin Lyerly. That's because actress Halle Berry spoke out in favor of a bill in the Wisconsin Legislature dealing with menopause. And so we're going to talk about some women's health issues at 8:35. All that and so much more ahead on a Wednesday morning. But we're going to finish restarting things here and see you in 2.5 minutes.
You think the fans are going to boo? Of course not. They're not. We traded him. He won a title for us, and he's a buck, and he's part of this community. And I think that's what people forget most. As good as he was all on the court, I thought he was a superstar off the court, him and his wife, with all the things they did for the community.
That's Bucks head coach Doc Rivers with Sports on Mike Clemens.
Madison, Wisconsin. Students, government, lakes, and 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy and breezy for tonight with occasional showers and a low close to 40. We'll look for more clouds for tomorrow, a pop-up shower or two possible and still breezy, a high in the upper 40s. A return to sunshine for Thursday and Friday, a high in the low 50s. Currently, it's 44 degrees.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
30,000 Wisconsinites could be priced out of ACA insurance completely. Former Assistant Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Alejandra Castillo. What's the off-ramp here?
If you haven't called your member of Congress, you need to. The off-ramp can only be individuals like you and I calling our members of Congress and demanding that both the White House and Congress begin to negotiate a real solution.
The award-winning Maggie Dawn Show. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Conrad has restless leg syndrome where it's hard to control your leg. And you got to be careful. There's a lot of expensive stuff around this studio. So, Con? What broke over there just now?
A couple speakers.
They just redid this studio. We'll be dealing with, sorry. This is a serious thing.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on a Wednesday morning. It's October 22nd, 2025, and it's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, catching us on Facebook, by YouTube, by podcast. We appreciate you being here in the middle of the week. I got a question for you. Have you got a great photo of fall colors yet? I know for some of you, myself included, it's kind of irresistible when the colors are just right and you got to go snap a photo. And I've got so many around Lake Wissota, and I've got the colors really popping right now, but it's also been kind of cloudy and rainy. That's going to change in the forecast. So I'm expecting to have some awesome photos of fall colors around the lake here real soon. And we are starting to collect them here at Up North News and putting them in our newsletter. And I'm sure we'll put up a carousel for social media as well. And we would love to see your photos of fall colors around the state. And you can send them to us directly through email. You can use this address, radio@upnorthnewswi.com, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. But guess what? If you want producer Parker Olson to see them as well, well, just text it through us through the Civic Media app. We can do that. We have the capability. Parker Olson is here right now in Madison Studio A2 and can confirm people send us photos.
They do?
Yeah, like we got all kinds from the No Kings rallies. People wanted us to see the funny signs that were up there as well. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we like that very much. So you can use that Civic Media app to text us your comments, text us your photos. You can call us directly from the app, or you can call 855-75-CIVIC, or you can leave a voice note as well, all on there. But the colors would be great. Are they? I have no idea if they've started really changing down in Madison yet.
Oh yeah, they really have. I didn't, but I almost took a picture the other day because it was really pretty. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a pretty place, and it's just nice to have that reminder now and then. So again, we'd love to get some of your fall foliage photos, if you would. Coming up a little later in our homeroom segment, we will be talking to the president of the school board in Viroqua. She recently joined some state lawmakers in making sure the public understood that the new state budget, while it did put some money in things like special education, there was a 0% increase in general state aid to school districts. 0%. Inflation's not 0%. And so school districts are having an even tougher time, even after the state budget, because that's the best the Republican-led legislature would do in reaching a deal with Governor Tony Evers to get the budget passed on time. And so there are going to be more referendums, because once again, this legislature would rather pass the buck and make school boards into the bad guys and ask voters to raise their own property taxes rather than pay out of a multi-billion-dollar state surplus. And so Angie Lawrence from Viroqua will tell us more about the way the system is set up right now. That's in our homeroom segment coming up at 7:35 this morning. I mentioned the newsletter, and if you don't get it already, well, you need to fix that. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe up in the top banner, and you can see what Ellie Bordeaux is putting together. She's going to tell you about it as well, because she's going to be here 1 hour from now. She joins us now on Wednesday mornings, right after the 7 o'clock news, to talk about what's going in our daily newsletter, including today. Well, let's see. We talked about for brewers and packer seasons that there were new food and beverage options available. Always are each season as they turn things over. That's no different at the Fiserv Forum for the Milwaukee Bucks, who tip off their season tonight. And so we'll learn more about some of the new interesting food and beverage choices at Bucks games. Also, she has a new series called Civic Check-In on some of the terminology that is out there when we're talking about the Trump administration. You know, things like last week, she talked about the literal definition of authoritarianism. And today it's oligarchy. And these are all $5 words that people go, oh, college boy with your, well, they mean something. And they mean something serious and real in the context of what's happening in our country in the here and now. And so Ellie gets into oligarchy and what it means when we've got more billionaires than ever, and they're not just buying nice yachts and cars and houses. They're buying power. They're buying access. They're almost literally buying politicians. Maybe some would say literally. And so oligarchy it's not a word you use all the time, but it's a word you maybe want to get freshened up on, because it sure is starting to apply to what's happening in our country today. There's also our Sunday morning newsletter that I put together, and you can sign up for that at the same website, upnorthnewswi.com. And we have a question of the week, where this week we ask about online sports betting. Now, you do have things like FanDuel and DraftKings that are out there. These are national sites, and technically they're not legal to use in Wisconsin. It's a misdemeanor. It's probably not something that ever gets enforced, but technically it's not done legally. There are ways to gamble legally in Wisconsin, like going to one of the many casinos owned by tribal nations around the state. And inside those casinos, inside some of them, are what are called sports books. Just basically little lounges where you can watch all kinds of sports on a million TVs, and you can place bets right there on the professional sports. But what about an online option where instead of having to physically be in one of the tribal casinos, could they operate an online site and then just at home you could place bets on professional sports? That could be made legal. The question to you is, should it be made legal? Is it something that is out there anyway? And so let's make it tied to legal state casinos, or is it something that encourages gambling abuse? What are your thoughts on that? We're already getting a nice wave of responses on both sides of the question. And again, you see it first by signing up for our Sunday morning newsletter. Also coming up, Dr. Kristin Lyerly is going to make a special Wednesday appearance with us at 8:35, and that's because of Halle Berry, the actress. Now, Halle Berry won't be here, but we will hear from her because she was part of a virtual news conference yesterday on behalf of a bipartisan bill in the Wisconsin Legislature related to menopause, information, education, and resources. And so we'll play back some of that news conference where Halle Berry talks about, just how many millions of women go through menopause in this country, how many thousands per day move into that phase, and yet there's still so much stigma around women's health at that age, and acknowledging the symptoms and treating the symptoms and doing more medical research and, making sure there isn't misinformation out there. It's not often we get to talk about a bipartisan bill, especially one getting celebrity support. So Dr. Lyerly will be along to talk to us about that as well. Now, if you can't stick around till 8:35 for that segment, or 7:35 for our homeroom segment, and or even 6:35 when we do our daily history lesson, be sure you sign up for us as a podcast. Head over to Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts and get all signed up now. 6:14 right now, and again, I've mentioned it's October 22nd, so we're still just over a week away from Halloween, and yet, perhaps because of the change in weather, perhaps for a myriad other reasons, Parker, we have started looking into Christmas shopping and what to get for people. I mean, specifically our kids and grandkids, but we've reached that point in the calendar where even you got on a little quarter zip fleece there, it looks like, or something, right? So, to everything there is a season, and that includes the season for holiday gifts. We stopped at Farm and Fleet in Halle over the weekend, and the first thing,
place to find gifts.
The first thing the greeter hands us is a scratch-off card for a potential discount at their Toyland. And Toyland is about to open up there, or maybe it has, I'm not sure. But we and we're not the only ones who said this. We're like, wait, that was always a Thanksgiving week thing. And I'm not picking on Farm and Fleet. I'm saying in general, the seasons have all moved up. I've not been to Target in the past couple of weeks here. I dare say if you go to Target and you're looking for a last minute Halloween costume, you're going to be out of luck because you're going to find all kinds of Christmas stuff in there. And that's just how American retail works in this day and age. And so, we're thinking about Christmas shopping, which, by the way, can you hear the flood approaching? Yeah, the catalogs. My mailbox is going to be so full of catalogs real soon.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe this is more of a reflection on how much we procrastinate, Pat.
It could be.
Perhaps we need it this early.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't.
No, I don't want it. I don't want it.
Tony says your Halloween costume is going to be an elf or a reindeer. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because there will be those there. Yes. The thing is, with both of our daughters being born the last week of October, a couple of years apart, we had gotten into the habit back during the pregnancies of, boy, we better get some Christmas stuff prepped ahead of time, because then the babies are going to be born and times are going to get crazy. So for the longest time, that actually became our tradition, was like early to mid-October, was to try to bang out as many Christmas gifts as we could on our list. But over time, not just because we got a little bit lazier, you're not going through pregnancies and newborns anymore, but there's all those special, what specials are you going to miss? They put so many specials out there for like Black Friday and all of that. You don't want to miss any of that. So we've started talking about it, but the shopping is probably going to begin in earnest for many people in the next week or two here.
Yeah, probably. And so does that mean that like Black Friday and Cyber Monday are your last good chance at getting stuff?
The last big chance. Yeah, there's always like a retailer somewhere that's like, ooh, we gotta move these microwave ovens, custom kitchen delivery. Anyway, so they'll run something, closer to Christmas out of desperation. But yeah, the Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing is kind of it, which I don't mind that because so much now is done online And don't get me wrong, I would love to support local retailers as much as possible. There's just fewer and fewer of them all the time. But one of the things I don't miss that seemed to have become quite a tradition for about a generation there was the Black Friday crowds where people like beating each other up to get to, Beanie Babies or Tickle Me Elmo or whatever the deal is,
You love waking up on Friday morning to the videos of people beating each other in a Walmart parking lot trying to get in line.
No. Let's see. Tony says, wait, your wife's significant other hasn't finished their Christmas shopping like a month ago? I couldn't buy Christmas presents for anyone but her if I wanted to. Well, see, we all have our own division of labor there. And yeah, I have used Wisconsin-based catalogs before. You're sending things like Newski's Bacon or Kringles out of Racine, things like that. So we actually should put a little emphasis on Wisconsin retailers, Wisconsin-made Christmas gifts that people, could do, because then you don't have to go out trudging through the parking lots, but you're still supporting, Wisconsin retailers and getting things done that way. So, yep, here we are. We're setting up the time for Christmas here. Temperatures around the state range from 37 in Manitowish Waters and Solon Springs to 48 in Shawano. It is 43 right now in Wausau. Here in Chippewa Falls and Wisconsin Rapids, in Oshkosh and La Crosse, it's 45 degrees right now. Lingering rain chances today, then pleasant and seasonal for the rest of the week. All right, we'll talk about a couple of bad ideas from the GOP, more guns, and a recycled candidate for Attorney General, all coming up from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Monster savings are creeping in this October.
He read the tease he wrote for himself. He's such a good boy.
Yay! Good job. And on a day that you're discombobulated too. Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's really something. But hey, let's see if I nail this Taylor Swift one next.
Oh, maybe.
Baby steps.
If you get it, you might get applause, Pat. You've got a reward to work towards.
Absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-317-2277. That's 800-317-2277.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation just announced the official start date for one of its biggest ever construction projects, the I-94 East-West project, which will reconstruct and widen a 3.5-mile stretch of interstate highway in the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. This is a massive project with an estimated cost of more than $1.7 billion. And with this official start date announced also came estimates for how long this will take. Construction is expected to last until 2030. At the recombobulation area, this project is something we've covered extensively, including with an award-winning 4-part series called Expanding the Divide. It might be worth revisiting that series and considering how unnecessary and expensive an extra lane is, and how in southeastern Wisconsin, we're going to be dealing with construction and delays for the next 8 years in order to shave a few minutes off suburban commute times, while the city streets and city problems go ignored once again.
Find all of Dan's work at the recombobulation area.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me at work when I lead by example. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my community and those I care about safe from threats.
Just about 6:23 right now, and I have the unhappy duty to tell you it's still dark out there. Oh well, seasons change. Winter's still approaching. We're talking about Christmas shopping. Of course we are. Coming up later today across the Civic Media Radio Network, Matt and Air on Air follows this fine program at 9 o'clock. Deborah Cronmiller from the League of Women Voters will join Jane, Matt and Air, and Greg Bach. Again, that's about 9:35 that you can catch Deborah Cronmiller from the League of Women Voters. Todd Alba, who had a birthday yesterday, but not old enough to retire, contrary to public opinion. He'll have his show today from 2 to 4. I will be joining him along with Trygve Olsen from the Lincoln Project right off the top, just after the news at 2 o'clock. And the Maggie Dawn Show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Coming up at 5 o'clock, she will have officials from the group Kids Forward on how the government shutdown has led to the real possibility that SNAP nutritional benefits may start to run out because of the shutdown. So again, you've got Donald Trump, Derek Van Orden, and friends who would rather see families lose out on their food assistance and see health insurance costs rise to pay for tax cuts for billionaires rather than run a government in a functional manner. And so Maggie will have more about that with her guests just after 5 o'clock here on the Civic Media Radio Network. To learn more about any of these shows and much more, head to civicmedia.us. Well, here's something absolutely nobody's been asking for. The headline from Hope Carnop in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel: Wisconsin Republicans introduce bill to allow concealed carry without a permit and propose stronger constitutional right to bear arms. Stronger right to bear arms? Allow me to steal from Jon Stewart, who says, if more guns make us safe, when does that start? We are already a nation awash in guns. We are a nation awash in blood. From all of the people who die from gun violence, from accidental gun discharges, from suicides, and more. And yet, there are now Republican lawmakers who've introduced several bills aimed at expanding access to firearms, including allowing for concealed carry without a license, without training. Why? Who is asking for this besides the mythical next mass shooter that you are encouraging were these bills to pass? And of course they won't pass. Governor Tony Evers is still at the helm. He still knows how to operate a veto pen. So once again, these are lawmakers who are wasting your time. They're wasting taxpayer resources to make a political point, to go back to their districts and say, gosh, we tried to put more guns in the hands of more people without training and without licensing, knowing that we're increasing the odds of mass shootings and violent crime and gun accidents. But that mean old governor wouldn't let us do it. Could I kindly suggest you just put out a press release saying, hey, if you elect a Republican governor and a Republican legislature next year, here are the bills we would introduce to increase the odds that you or somebody you know would get shot. That press release will cost a lot less than the process of writing these bills, introducing these bills, having to take up time for committee hearings, even conceivably passing them, as ridiculous as they are, having the governor veto them, come back into session to attempt a veto override, which would fail. You've got people like Senator Andre Jacques and others who are saying, like in this quote from the story, for many Wisconsinites, firearm and archery traditions are more than recreation. They're a way of life passed down through generations. Yeah, they are. And they will continue to be. Because the people who do hunting and sport shooting and archery and everything like that know to go through the processes to get a license, to get trained, to take hunter safety. That is not the same as basically rolling a truck into the middle of town, dumping a bunch of guns on the streets and saying, have at it, gang. These are the people that love to point to a Milwaukee or a Chicago or other places and say, oh, look at all the violent crime there. They love to trash Milwaukee and other places. And then they propose bills like this that are going to put more guns into people who aren't trained, aren't licensed, aren't vetted. What a waste. Meanwhile, Republicans are recycling a candidate for Attorney General. The district attorney in Fond du Lac County, Eric Toney, has officially launched a second campaign for Attorney General. So there will likely be a rematch with Josh Kaul, the incumbent Democratic Attorney General, who beat Eric Toney last time around. Now Josh Kaul has decided he wants to run for a third term as Attorney General, and Eric Toney wants to take him on again. Well, what do you think Eric Toney talked about in announcing his campaign? Here, I'll just give it. Here it is. We have also seen Milwaukee crime spiraling out of control. We see reckless driving where we know people are afraid to go to the city of Milwaukee. People avoid it altogether, and that should not be the case. Milwaukee is the largest city. It should be the engine that drives our state forward, that people feel safe to go and visit and enjoy the beautiful city of Milwaukee. Have you seen the attendance figures at American Family Field and for Bucks games and for Summerfest and the Milwaukee County Zoo and all kinds of other areas where people love to go to Milwaukee to dine and to recreate and to visit? They know the places that they want to go. But it's such a convenient, easy talking point to bash Milwaukee writ large, as if you're going to do something about it as Attorney General. Oh, by the way, he did bash one other group while he was there, immigrants. Because again, it's just a broken record with these folks, including the broken record of recycling a failed candidate. There's today's segment on not so great ideas. How about we go to today's history lesson? You want more Taylor Swift? I got more Taylor Swift for you. It's right after the Midwest Farm Report here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Tony, I stand corrected. Yes, everyone is asking for this. Right-wing activists, politicians seeking headlines, gun manufacturers, everyone is seeking this.
But gosh darn it, he got the Taylor Swift tease in.
That's right. Secret Taylor show.
Secret show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. Stop.
From government agencies like the U.S. Department of Agriculture, traders turn to things like social media as streams of information. Not necessarily always reliable, definitely not something that can always be verified, but he says they trade it anyhow.
Very much so, and obviously in our modern world of trading now too, with the algo traders and you know they're searching headlines and anything that comes from the administration or just news anywhere just triggers market reaction, and that's some of the volatility that we got in all these markets right now. It makes it just very difficult to manage for producers in terms of protecting risks, things along those lines.
John Heinberg, market advisor with Total Farm Marketing out of West Bend. He said now, because it's so late in October, he fears that if the government doesn't reopen soon, the November World Ag Supply Demand Report will be on the chopping block. He said all the information they release in the November report actually collected in October.
As the weather changes, it can start to impact feed quality. Don't let your cows become the victims of the ration roller coaster. Adding Generator Elite to your herd's ration can introduce beneficial microbials that support gut health and help the herd navigate the highs and lows of feed quality, all while using less than an ounce per day per cow. Learn more about Generator Elite at bio-vet.com.
Innovation. That's BioVet.
At Steffes Auctioneers, we don't just sell, we guide. Knowing what your equipment or land is worth isn't just a number, it's clarity. It's the first step in making smart decisions for your future. That's why we offer honest, market-based valuations with no pressure to sell. Just insight you can trust. Start with the conversation or start with the valuation. Steffes Auctioneers. We don't just sell, we guide. Not sure where to start? Let's talk. Visit steffesgroup.com right now. That's STEFFES group.com.
On Tuesday, the barrel cheese gained 1/4 cent to 177.5. 40-pound block cheese was down 3 at 176.5, and double A butter stood still at $1.58 a pound. This morning, the November Class 3 milk that goes into cheese is right now up 18 cents at $17.16 a hundredweight. December's up 2 $16.53 a hundredweight. Currently, December corn is unchanged at $4.20. March corn unchanged at $4.34. We've got November soybeans up 2 at $10.33. January soybeans currently 2 cents stronger at $10.51. And July new crop wheat down a penny right now at $5.38.5. I'm Pam Yankee. Farm news that impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy and breezy for tonight with occasional showers and a low close to 40. We'll look for more clouds for tomorrow, a pop-up shower or two possible and still breezy, a high in the upper 40s. A return to sunshine for Thursday and Friday, a high in the low 50s. Currently, it's 44 degrees.
No fear here, just monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. This October, the only thing creeping near your bed is a deal too good to miss. We custom make every mattress so you know exactly what's inside. No tricks, just treats. Save hundreds on mattresses, foundations, headboards, sheets, and more. Monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Upgrade your bedroom and unleash the sleep of your dreams. American-made, locally crafted, Verlo. Hurry in before these monster savings vanish. Verlo Mattress of Madison.
Where working people come to talk. It's the Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about. No talking points, no focus groups. Get ready for a heavy dose of democracy, fairness, grit,
We're going to start today's history lesson with a little Bob Seger.
A little too tall, could have used a few pounds.
That is because on this day in 1976, Bob Seger released the album Night Moves, along with the title track there. It spun off singles like Rock and Roll Never Forgets, Main Street, and The Fire Down Below. Again, Night Moves, the album was released this day in 1976. If you've ever heard the term rugged individualism when talking about politics, where did that really get its start? A guy named President Herbert Hoover, who made a speech on this day in 1928, talking about the American system of rugged individualism. You know, the solitary cowboy who can make his own life without the government telling him what to do. Rugged individualism. A speech on this day in 1928 that proved that even presidents can be utterly clueless about the workings of a functional society. Because somewhere between individualism and outright full-on dependence for handouts, there's all kinds of middle ground, including the right balance of something known as community, where we all work together with our resources to create a better life for all of us while maintaining our individual liberties. You know, community, as in it takes a village. Somebody was very right about that back in the day. Let's go way up to 2012 right now. So my goodness, it's been 13 years ago since Taylor Swift released her 4th album, Red. The first single there went to number 1.
This time, I'm telling you, we are never, ever getting back together.
This was apparently some kind of a kiss off to an ex she refused to name. So we'll go to resident Tay historian Parker Olson. Did we ever find out who she was talking about never getting back together with?
This is an excellent question, Pat, which I have not researched. However, I do believe that we can probably figure this out.
You think so? All right. Well, there you go. There's our next assignment for Google. Better yet, let's bring in ChatGPT, because I mean, why have AI to cure cancer when you can use it to research Taylor Swift song lyrics. So we're gonna get to work on that.
And we've already got it.
That's right. Red also included the single "I Knew You Were Trouble." I Knew You Were Trouble, and again, that was released 13 years ago today. On this day in 1966, the Supremes became the first ever girl group with a #1 album. The album was the Supremes A Go-Go. Very typical name for 1966 when they had an album that went to #1. On this day, 60 years ago today, 1965, the #1 song was by the Beatles.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
And one of those Beatles is on today's history lesson for a reason that came up almost 20 years later. On this day in 1984, Paul McCartney released the soundtrack for Give My Regards to Broad Street, a film that covered a fictional day in the life of McCartney, who wrote the film for the screen. It was a bit of a dud, but the album did well, including some Beatles remakes and some new music like this Signal.
Wait another day.
Single, he said.
Single.
Until I call you.
No More Lonely Nights was one of the singles off Give My Regards to Broad Street. But I mentioned, along with the Beatles remakes, there is an updated version of Silly Love Songs that got a little bit of traction back in 1984, but I still queue it up every now and then. It's definitely worth a listen to hear what Paul McCartney was thinking 20 years after the Beatles of some of the fresher versions of tunes, again, for a movie that I didn't see. I don't know anybody that saw it, but some movies don't do so well. Their soundtracks do all right. So that's great. Let's see. One more birthday. It's a kind of a short history list today. Shaggy is 57 years old today.
Mr. Bombastic. We want is a bombastic, romantic, fantastic lover.
Shaggy is a much better stage name than his birth name, Orville Burrell. Orville Burrell was born 57 years ago. He's a two-time Grammy winner. He's a Marine, a Gulf War veteran, was married for at least a decade, 5 kids. He loves to be the benefactor of a children's hospital in Jamaica. Now he's got his own XM channel. And I'm not saying I want a voice like his. I'm just saying I'm very jealous of it. It's just so distinctive.
It's interesting, yes. It's not a voice I would peg for a guy named Orville.
No, not at all. So Shaggy's 57 years old today. Actor Jeff Goldblum is 73. Actor Bob Odenkirk is 63. Corbin Burns, the actor, is that right? 31?
Well, I don't assume that's the actor. I assume that's the pitcher.
That's got to be the pitcher. Who am I thinking of?
I have no idea.
Oh, my goodness.
Are there more Corbin Burnses?
Yes. From the movie Major League. He was the Corbin Burnson. That's who I was thinking of. I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
my mistake. My mistake. I was like, wait a minute. Did I put that in there because of Major League being filmed in Milwaukee? No. You're just talking about that guy, not the other guy. On this day in 1966, boy, we've mentioned Weird Al Yankovic twice in a week here. In 1966, 7-year-old Weird Al Yankovic had his first accordion lesson. His parents rented the instrument from a door-to-door salesman.
Door-to-door accordion sales. That's the career I want to go in.
What? When we talk about Amazon and all the other, Christmas gifts and everything out there, we don't have door-to-door salesmen like we used to.
No.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying your kids' chances of playing an accordion are a little less now because we don't have door-to-door accordion sales reps.
I mean, my brother played an accordion in a mariachi band. Yeah.
See, now that you're going to get work. There's going to be mariachi bands. You're going to need that. I think that was actually quite cool. Let's see. What else have I got here? Oh, the start of the Cuban Missile Crisis, this day in 1962, when President John F. Kennedy announced that American reconnaissance planes had discovered Soviet nuclear weapons in Cuba and had ordered a naval quarantine of the island nation. On this day in 2002, Christina Aguilera released her album Stripped with singles that included Fighter. So the album had plenty of songs that basically burned down her image as a wholesome little pop starlet from the Mickey Mouse Club and everything. But that worked out just fine for her. There were ballads there like Beautiful, a very powerful song about self-acceptance, and more. It was basically the first time that she had creative control over her music, and so she really roared onto the scene this day in 2002. Let's see. There's also, here's out of the news headlines. 6 years ago today, that America's top diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, testified that then President Donald Trump had tied military aid to Ukraine into demands that Ukraine open up a phony investigation into the Biden family. It was shocking at the time. I mean, people knew that Donald Trump could say and do a lot of things, but to actually tie military aid to another country, unless they shake down his political opponent, was something so over the line that it led to an impeachment and should have led to a conviction. But Republicans in the Senate, Ron Johnson and others, decided to change the rules in this country as far as what presidents are allowed to do. On this day in 1907, there was a run on the Knickerbocker Trust Company. There's a name we got to bring back the name Knickerbocker, not just the New York Knicks, just Knickerbockers overall. That's a good word.
It is a good word, yeah. I'll give you that. I think we should just call them the New York Knickerbockers all the time. Well, I don't think we should call them the Knicks.
I believe that is still their
it is
their full name. Yeah,
probably. I don't hear it at all, though.
Anyway, so back to 1907, there was a run on the stock of the Knickerbocker Trust Company, which set off the Panic of 1907, which I always enjoy when I see these in the history lessons, because we call them depressions now. The Great Depression, we had the Great Recession, but there were plenty of, big economic slumps over the years, but they were called panics back then. We had a history lesson a week or two ago. We had the Panic of 1873, and this one was the Panic of 1907. It was all based on a bubble, as all these things are. The bubble this time was about copper speculation, probably because they realized that copper wiring could be useful in transmitting things and things like that. No doubt for construction. Anyway, this whole depression in 1907, or panic, if you will, led to the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank that we have now. All right, 6:46, and it's time to take a look at what's on the National Day calendar for today.
It is National Lung Health Day. So make sure you're not smoking, probably is the main thing.
I was going to say, that's the main thing. You want lung health, put out that heater. You don't need it. I mean, you can maybe treat yourself to one or two, Swisher Sweets a year, when you're out drinking with the girls, but that's really about it. So be good to your lungs. What else we got?
It is also National Color Day. It is not like, it is like color, but it's not like pick your favorite color. It's just like, enjoy that color is there.
Enjoy that color is there. Okay. So basically, if you know somebody who's color blind, I mean, are you supposed to be extra nice and empathetic to them? Are you supposed to rub it in their face? I'm not sure how this works, but
that's a good point.
So it's appreciate that you're not colorblind day, I guess.
I suppose, yeah.
That's one way to look at it.
Rebrand it.
Okay. Anything else?
We've got National Nut Day.
Nut Day, like just nuts overall.
That's overall.
That's the thing about these National Day calendars, man, because I'm sure that there's National Macadamia Nut Day, National Walnut Day. This is the big umbrella one. Be thankful for nuts.
Yeah, it's a good day. I like nuts.
Yeah. The thing that this time of year is the one time of year that I appreciate a little combo that I like to call peanuts and candy corn. Because you got to do something with that candy corn. Who would eat candy corn plain? I mean, just would you put your paw into a bowl of sugar and just throw a fistful of sugar in your mouth? That's candy corn.
Whoa. What you got against candy corn?
it's all sugar. I can feel my teeth falling out just thinking about it. But now you take a little bit of candy corn and some peanuts, and you throw that in, and man, that's a payday bar or a salted nut roll that you didn't have to pay extra for the wrapper and the name and everything else.
I like the combo. I love the like roasted peanuts with the salt and the candy corn in there with the, but you can't be dunking on straight candy corn like that. It's good.
Eventually, Mr. Olson, your teeth too will age and get to the point where you know that if you were to just put candy corn in your mouth, you would be getting instructions on how to clean those dentures going forward. So just like it's Lung Health Day, consider this your tooth health reminder not to put straight sugar into your mouth, even if it is Halloween. Mix some nuts in there with it because it's National Nut Day. Coming up in the next hour, we are going to be talking to the president of the Viroqua School Board all about the decrease in general state aid. Well, cutting to 0%. Not very helpful in an era of inflation. That's coming up. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Making me a fighter.
Tony, candy corn is made for trash cans. Everyone knows that. Nuts can't save candy corn. What? And well, I think Tony knows because Tony's been listening for a while that yes, for every year up to this point, I too have just completely trashed candy corn. It's completely useless. I used to tell my daughters the same joke every year that all the candy corn that was ever made was only made in 1 year, 1922. And ever since then, we've just been eating what little bit hasn't yet been consumed because nobody wants it. So, but then somebody told me the shortcut with the peanuts and the candy corn, and now I'm okay with it.
That is very good. I am a big fan of the nuts with the candy corn.
Yeah. All right. So we got some entertainment news. Was I going to bring up something else in particular? No, it doesn't look like it. So we'll start with that and we'll see where the winds take us from there.
By the way, props to Tony on where is it?
How do you not play It Wasn't Me by Shaggy? Because I don't know that we want to do that kind of morality play at 6:50 in the morning, but I don't know. And yes, the Knicks.
That one. He got the name of the Taylor Swift boyfriend. For the
I didn't know what that was about.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know how to say
Tony, sometimes I'll see that and come back and go, I don't know what it was a reference to. So there you go. So we think it was Jake. All right. I like that Parker's actually going to look into this. This is great.
I did look. I had the answer like within a minute. You just kept going. I was like,
wait,
yeah, okay.
You knew it was Jake as well? You had that?
Well, I didn't know it.
No, I'm saying you found it.
Google AI knew it.
Oh, okay. Good job, Google.
S&P 500 CEO earned about $17 million, or about $46,849 per day, compared to under $64,000 per year for the average worker. Median figures were similar. CEOs made $16.3 million, while median workers earned about $81,000, equivalent to less than 2 days of CEO pay. High CEO compensation remains a stark contrast to the modest worker earnings across major U.S. companies. I'm Trisha Young for Wisconsin Watch. Fact briefs are bite-sized fact checks of trending claims produced by Wisconsin Watch and GigaFact. Read more at wisconsinwatch.org.
Seems like nobody in America agrees on much of anything these days.
But can we agree the federal government shouldn't tax people into poverty?
If you work full-time, you should be able to afford your basic needs. Don't you think? We're the patriotic million.
All right, let's continue dumping on candy corn for a moment or two here because Roger and Stevens Point put on Facebook. My rules about candy corn: 1, open candy corn bag; 2, dump candy corn in wastebasket; 3, open a Kit Kat; 4, enjoy. And again, for a guy who always has a bowl of Kit Kats in the kitchen here, I can't disagree with that, Roger, one bit, except for the peanut trick that kind of saves it. But Tony disagrees. Tony says nuts can't save candy corn.
Oh, you guys aren't, no pun intended. You guys are nuts.
I see what you did there. Okay. Well,
you're making
have to agree to disagree. So I was trying to figure out the origin for knickerbockers that we were talking about in the last segment as well. Originally, just a nickname for descendants of the early Dutch settlers of New York City. Were called knickerbockers, but then somewhere along the line, they also became the name for a form of baggy-kneed breeches, made popular in the early 20th century. Was to wear your knickerbockers, don't get your knickers in a twist, as it were. So, all right. So there's our little mopping up from the history segment. What do you have for entertainment news for us today?
Well, hang on. We also have to mop up Never Ever Getting Back Together.
Oh, that's right. You did. There was research that was done on there, and it was both. Did you and Tony basically get it at the same time?
I think so. Yes, we have both come to the conclusion that it was Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal. Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't have a clue.
Well, if it was about Maggie Gyllenhaal, I mean, that would really be a song. But no, it was apparently about Jake, which, again, I don't know all of the people that Taylor dated, so I doubt that Jake Gyllenhaal is going to sue us. So I have no reason to doubt that if both of you found it through the Google machine, then that must be the answer to who's ever getting back together with Taylor. All right. Now the other entertainment news.
And you know what? While we're talking about Taylor, let's talk about the In the Heights podcast that her fiance has with his brother Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. They have had some celebrities on, and they have found that Keanu Reeves and Leonardo DiCaprio both had stage names that did not stick.
Oh, really?
Keanu Reeves, apparently he almost made his stage name Chuck Spadina.
Chuck Spadina?
Yes.
Okay.
Because apparently he just wanted that and then went, never mind.
Spadina or Spadina?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it is Spadina.
Okay.
That would probably,
Okay. All right.
So there's that. And then Leonardo DiCaprio, apparently he was told as a child actor that Leonardo was too ethnic. So he was told to go by Lenny.
Okay.
Can you picture a world where we have a Lenny DiCaprio?
No, it's definitely
Chuck.
Leo. Yes. Sometimes you gotta workshop these things. You need to try something and go, no, that just doesn't fit, and then try something else. I mean, if I'd have known I was going to have more of a career in radio or TV, I don't know that I would necessarily have kept Kreitlow, because it's, nobody can spell it right. Too often it comes out Kreitlow or Kritlow or Kritlow, and I just go, I really should have just come up with something else. Could have just done what a lot of people do the first and last name or the first and middle name thing, and go, it's me, I'm Patrick Jerome. It might have, it could have stuck, but
that's what Keanu Reeves was doing with Chuck.
Well, that's the thing is after Chuck, he moved on to that, which is funny because it's one of them that I discarded. Originally, my radio name was going to be Keanu Reeves, and I just didn't think it was going to work. So
that would have confused people.
I trashed it, and Chuck picked it up and ran with it. So good for him. All right, what else we got for entertainment news on a Wednesday morning?
We've also got a 8-episode Netflix drama series titled Kennedy. It is in the works, doesn't have a release date yet. It will be about, you guessed it, the Kennedy family.
Okay.
With I don't know if it's the first season or the first episode. I don't know how much range they're covering with it right off the bat, but it starts in the 1930s. So it is described as exploring the triumphs and tragedies of the Kennedy family.
Well, the Kennedy family, and I certainly don't mean Robert Jr., but even prior to Bobby and John, you already had a bit of a family dynasty there. And so it is a family that is essentially ripe for the picking when it comes to, dramatic storytelling about the family's patriarch, Joseph Kennedy. This is all based on a book called JFK coming of age in the American century, 1917 to 1956. And it was after 1956 that people were kind of getting serious about, Senator John Kennedy from Massachusetts maybe running for president. But again, there was a lot that was both a blessing and a curse about Joe and Rose Kennedy and the family business of the time. So Michael Fassbender is starring in this, and let's see, did it say when it's coming up on Netflix?
No, it doesn't have a release date quite yet. Still in the works.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't doubt that that's going to get some numbers, because people have always been fascinated. It's the closest thing we've had to like a royal family here until the Trump family came along, and they actually want to be royalty. Good luck with that. 7 million marchers say good luck. Any other entertainment news we want to share today?
Lizzo, she's being sued for apparently ripping off instrumental and vocal elements of a copyrighted song. Her song is I'm Going In Till October. If you don't really recognize that, it's because it was never released commercially, just on social media, and it has not been monetized, but she's still getting sued over it.
I'm not taking Lizzo's side on this necessarily. I'm just saying what I've said before. Songwriting, I couldn't possibly do it, because as soon as you start to string a couple of notes together, you find yourself wandering into some other song that already exists. I don't know how you write something original that somebody else hasn't grabbed, whether it was released or not released. That's hard stuff. So I'm going to give Lizzo the benefit of the doubt until you see more obvious signs that it's a blatant ripoff. Because again, it's enough for me to string 3 or 4 words together coherently, much less the notes. Thankfully, they let me do this for 3 hours a day on the radio anyway. And we're going to try it again in the next hour in our homeroom segment, talking about the 0% increase in state aids to schools and how hard that is hitting and going to lead to more referendums. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. President Trump said to be wanting nearly $250 million from his own Justice Department. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
Sources tell ABC News that President Trump is pushing for a personal $230 million payout from the Justice Department as compensation for the federal investigations he's faced.
Well, I guess they probably owe me a lot of money for that. Probably, yeah, that's true.
That money would ultimately come from American taxpayers. The president now in charge of the department that investigated him for allegations of Russian meddling in the 2016 election and mishandling of classified documents in 2022.
The president's pick to head up the Office of Special Counsel Paul Ingrassia has withdrawn his name after many of his text messages were found to be offensive. Long lines outside the Louvre this morning as the famous museum opened its doors to the public for the first time since the robbery of many of France's crown jewels. The wing they were housed in does remain closed. This is ABC News.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Town Hall Ball Show, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. More than 24 positions in the Dane County Sheriff's Office could be cut. The county is facing a $31 million budget deficit. County Executive Melissa Agard has called for reducing each department's budget by at least 4%. Her plan to close that gap also includes a hiring freeze. However, she said that would not apply to public safety positions. Right now, there are currently 28 open positions at the Sheriff's Department. But now, 3 county supervisors have proposed cutting those 28 positions entirely. They would take the money saved and put it into the Health and Human Services Department, the county's biggest division. That money would go toward things like the New Men's Homeless Shelter, according to reporting from WISC. Sheriff Calvin Barrett is advocating against this plan. He says it would harm public safety, especially in more rural areas, according to WKOW. Barrett says their response time in spots like the town of Dunn or the town of Albion could be slower. On top of that, the county is set to open the long-awaited new jail in 2027. The sheriff asked how he's supposed to open a building that he can't staff. The Dane County Deputy Sheriff's Association represents almost 500 deputies, and their president says this plan would bring staffing shortages they haven't seen in almost 30 years. The Dane County Board will meet tomorrow night, and they'll discuss this measure. Meanwhile, a man has been arrested for allegedly stalking the Chief Justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. 37-year-old Ryan Thornton was allegedly asked to stop sending emails to Chief Justice Jill Karofsky. Authorities say in those emails, he demanded her home address and used derogatory language. He also reportedly said she's, quote, going down, end quote. Thornton is charged with 1 count of stalking. He's now out on bond with a GPS monitor. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers prepare for Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. NFL, it's the Packers and the Steelers this week on Sunday Night Football. But head coach Matt LaFleur reminding us they're playing the Steelers, not Aaron Rodgers.
We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who happen to have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's as simple as that. That is for you guys to talk about. We've got a lot of respect and love for Aaron. I mean, what he's done here is a Hall of Famer. This game is not about that. It's about going to Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football. Our guys will be jacked up. It's about the Green Bay Packers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
NBA, it's the Bucko.
How's Ellie today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. You good with the list you sent?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Then we are set. We'll get going in 2 minutes. See you in a
Perfect.
little.
Not something we've had, consistently in the past. Like, we need a voice. We need someone to always step up and speak. So I'm just taking it on.
That's the Bucks' Miles Turner with sports on Mike Clemens.
Madison, Wisconsin. Students, government, lakes, and 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Just an isolated light shower possible today. Otherwise cloudy, breezy, and chilly with high temperatures right around 50. For tonight, a fairly cold night for this time of year. Gradually decreasing clouds, low temperatures in the mid-30s. Currently, it's 44.
Don't act like that. Don't wear that. Don't think that. I've heard everything you tell yourself every time you felt different. And I want you to know that you can be vulnerable and powerful. That taking care of your mind is taking care of everyone you love and who loves you. Love your mind. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
This is Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. You'll also hear from Turtle Island voices like Arvina Martin, State Representative Heather Keeler, Ruth Anna Buffalo, Dr. Anthony Stately, State Senator Mary Kunish, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake. Native issues are human issues.
30 seconds until we're back.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
And good morning. Welcome back. Nice to have you here up north. It's 7:06 on a Wednesday morning, October 22nd. Parker Olson producing things down in Madison A2. Ellie Bordeaux, Up North News newsletter editor, joining us in just a sec. And then we'll also be talking this hour to the president of the Viroqua School Board about the school funding system in this state. It stinks. That includes this new state budget, where the best Republicans would agree to with Governor Tony Evers was some additional school funds in some parts of the budget, but basically a 0% increase in general state aid, and inflation's not 0%. So that's making it harder for school districts to avoid another round of referendums. And so we'll talk about the system. We've got Civic Media sports editor Jimmy Kuska coming up. And then looking ahead at 8:35, Dr. Kristin Lyerly will join us. Normally she's here Mondays and Fridays, but is going to join us because yesterday there was a virtual press conference with a bipartisan group of Wisconsin lawmakers working on legislation that would increase access to resources and education about menopause. And they were joined by actress Halle Berry, who has been a menopause activist, trying to get people to learn more about symptoms, treating them, research, things like that. And so we'll play back some of her remarks and talk to Dr. Lyerly about that from the standpoint of an OBGYN. That again coming up at 8:35. Temperatures around the state right now range from 37 degrees in Manitowish Waters and Solon Springs to 48 degrees in Shawano. Pretty much all of Wisconsin is at some point in the mid 40s right now. It's 41 here in Chippewa Falls. And again, things will be getting a bit more seasonable for temperatures after today's last shot of a little bit of rain before things move out of the area and we get some pleasant weather for the rest of the week. Rob says, good morning from Tigerton. It's cloudy with showers and 43. We got about 1/10 of an inch of rain overnight. He says it felt like November with a high of 43 and a wind chill of 38 for much of the day yesterday. Says he has a meeting in Shawano today and some errands to run. It may be one of the first times that Rob has not talked about mowing, although I don't doubt that he, like us here, still has some mowing jobs, mostly to grind up the leaves and mulch them up and get them out of the way. But again, we've got temperatures in the mid 40s by and large around Wisconsin. So stay inside, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and read up on that Up North News daily newsletter. Sign up for it at upnorthnewswi.com. Ellie Bordeaux puts it together for us and joins us now on Wednesday mornings. Ellie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you guys?
That's good. It's nice to see you. It's nice to have you here today talking about the things that you put in. And let's start with something local that you asked people to submit ideas or photos about, and that would be pizza places in their area. And I get the feeling a lot of people, if they've got a place they really like, there's like a sense of pride. They want to tell you about it. How was the response?
Yes, absolutely. I love getting responses. I love our locals love section because it allows us to highlight some small businesses around the state, those kinds of things. But I do think that is very true. People have a lot of pride in their pizza places around the state. I got so many emails and so many responses of people saying, this is the best pizza place in the state. This is so great. You need to check this out. So many recommendations. We've got some from Fond du Lac, Janesville, Eau Claire. So we, every Friday, have a different locals love section. And last week was pizza. This upcoming week, we're doing burgers. So be sure to send those in. I want to hear about your best burger places. I want to know where to check out around the state. So it's really great.
I'm guessing, as I was looking at some of the reviews, like Paul here says about Wisco's in Eau Claire, it's what I like to call the most Wisconsin place I've ever been to. There is also axe throwing, which is also very fun. Their Midwest deep dish pizza is the absolute best. I am not aware of any place, Paul, other than that place that combines pizzas and axe throwing. I'm still not really sure how we've allowed axe throwing in public places like restaurants, but was that one of the more unusual ones that you saw of everything that was put in?
Yeah, I would say that one was a little bit more unusual. I have also never heard of the combination of axe throwing and pizza in the same place, but hey, to each their own, and if it works, it works. So
Yeah.
I like it.
There was Harry's Prohibition Bistro in Sheboygan that said the moment you walk in and smell the wood-fired pizza oven and the 1920s decor brings you back in time. My favorite is the walnut pizza with Italian sausage. The burst of cream cheese with each bite adds an extra great flavor. From Merrill. Merrill is the person who submitted this. That's new on so many levels. The walnut, the cream cheese. I'm sure you heard some other interesting flavor combinations in pizza.
Yeah, we've got another one from Elkhart Lake about a beef marsala pizza. That's something I have never heard of before, but hey, sounds great. That sounds like something I need to check out. So I'm interested.
So not only can we talk about the local pizza places, but the different pizza combinations. And before we get going with folks here, when we talk about pizza combinations, you don't have to send in the Hawaiian one, the ham and the pineapple. That's right up there with candy corn. It's going right into the garbage can. Just Parker, come on, man.
I can't say I agree with that either.
Jeez. So y'all can have whatever weird takes you want, but I want to hear them. We've already heard that one. We've heard that one to death. But now we're hearing these new ones. A beef I've heard of chicken marsala, but beef marsala pizza. And then you've got the walnut pizza with Italian sausage and a little bit of cream cheese. So what else we got out there? I definitely invite comments coming out. Oh no, not Tony too. Tony, pineapple was made for pizza.
Oh no.
Oh, Tony. God, we're gonna miss you and all your comments you used to send to us. Anyway, so now that I've opened up that can of sardines or whatever else you like on your pizza, people have really taken to it. What are you looking for next?
So we're looking for burgers next. So this Friday, we're going to be featuring your favorite burger spots. I want to hear them. Send them in. Send us some unique burgers that you have seen around the state. What are some weird flavor combinations that maybe you wouldn't think about? Kind of like a beef marsala pizza. What would be the equivalent of that to a burger?
I will say that in the Madison area, one of the things I miss is at the Great Dane. And the Great Dane has a burger patty and a brat patty. And then, like I think it's fried onions and something else, and it's on a pretzel bun. And I might have to leave and drive down to Madison for lunch. I miss it so much.
Yeah.
Got a couple of great places up in Eau Claire. There's the Amber Inn. Again, just this little tiny corner bar, but just amazing burgers off their little griddle there behind the bar. Courtney House makes great burgers too. So yeah, we definitely want everybody else's favorites. Ellie, you got a favorite in the Economowalk area?
I'm trying to think. I would say, honestly, my favorite is probably, I would say the most unique is Crafty Cow in Oconomowoc. They've got like a peanut butter burger, which is very interesting. But I know it sounds weird, but it works. So they have a location, I believe, in Milwaukee as well. But yeah, I would say Crafty Cow is like our biggest spot in Oconomowoc for burgers. But I do think too, it's like kind of the smaller underground places that also sometimes have the best, like you don't expect it, but for some reason it's the best.
No, you remind me that also in downtown Eau Claire, the Livery has a unique burger. I haven't had it for a bit, but I know that there's like some pepper jelly that's on it, and I forget what kind of if cheese is on there. Parker, anything from a Whitewater standpoint?
There is a place in Whitewater that has a peanut butter burger. I can't remember. I think it's at Fat Jack's. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Fat Jack's. There you go.
Okay. So there you go. We want your burger places. We want to know exactly what it is that makes them so good. The weird flavor combinations. We'll definitely take it all. Here's one from the Livery. It's gorgonzola cheese and a bacon onion balsamic jam. A bacon onion balsamic jam with arugula on a brioche bun.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is. I'd rather have the pretzel, but I am not. Brioche to me is like too sweet for a hamburger bun. I want that as like French toast. That brioche is the best for that.
That's fair.
Really went into food talk here today, didn't we? Okay, well,
yeah, I guess so.
Talked about pizza. We've talked about burgers. Let's talk about fish. But we're not eating these ones because they're made of paper. So.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. So in July, people from around the world participated with the Sierra Club of the Wisconsin chapter, and they set the world record for the largest display of origami fish ever created with 86,262 origami fish. And so the display was set up in the Urban Ecology Center in Milwaukee, with each one with a message to shut down Line 5. And so now that display is moving to the state capitol, moving to Madison. So they're looking for volunteers to help with setup. They're looking for help with preparing for the display. They're looking for people to come attend the press conference. That'll be later. So all that information is in the newsletter as well. And yeah, it's just a big message for state lawmakers of a call to shut down Line 5. So that's why they've done that.
We had that in our on the radio show and in the newsletter back in May, as by setting this world record for collecting origami fish, they could call attention to Enbridge's Line 5, how they want to reroute it around the Bad River Reservation, but the tribal community is like, well, yeah, you can go around it, but you're still putting a pipeline through the Bad River, watershed, and so the court fights go on all of that, and so this was their way of calling attention. They had a website, fishforfuture.org. Again, fishforfuture.org, where you can read more about the collection and everything they want to do now to display it. So a nice little follow up on there. And then finally, Ellie, you've got a new feature called Civic Check-In. As we described it in the last hour, there's a lot of big words out there: authoritarianism, fascism, oligarchy, things like that. And they sound like, unattainable, but it really is important in this day and age to brush up on these terms, because they demonstrate, that there's some real threats to democracy and freedom in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we wanted to include this section. Is a lot of these words are being thrown around a lot more recently. And some of these words, I would say people maybe haven't heard since high school, like since their high school civics class, And so I think it's important for all of us to brush up on our knowledge of different political words and understanding what it means for you in your daily life. Are these patterns that you're seeing now? Like being able to come to recognize those in your own way and that kind of thing. So today we focused on an oligarchy and talking about the different types of oligarchies, what that means, the patterns to recognize. So every week we take a different type of term and kind of define it, go in depth with it, and then ask for your thoughts on what do you see in our day and age now?
And I think that's a great thing to do, because again, words can get thrown about without having them be technically correct. For me, the most glaring example are all the folks on the political right who love to scream socialism, that this is socialist, clearly demonstrating that they're not completely grasping what socialism actually means, but they love to throw out that big word. Well, if people are going to be saying that things are perhaps similar to an oligarchy or fascist, it might be important to, again, brush up on what it means, to see that in that context, those words are being correctly used right now, unlike socialism over the past, decade or two. So to read more about that and everything else that Ellie Bordeaux puts together, head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe up in the top banner. Ellie, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Yep, you as well. Appreciate it very much. Let's take a look at sports now at 7:19, where, again, we've got just one little note I wanted to pass along. The Packers taking on Aaron Rodgers at Pittsburgh Sunday at 7:20. Pregame starting at 5 on several Civic Media stations. A homeroom segment is coming up in 15 minutes. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, we are good to go there. Thank you, Ellie.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks you guys. Have a good one.
Yep, see you later.
Madison Hearing Aid Center. They're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road. Call them and make an appointment at 608-249-4077. You can take an initial hearing test online at madisonhearingaidcenter.com. Don't let your hearing loss frustrate you anymore. They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
I'm hungry. What's cooking?
Oh, no, not me. It's your turn.
Oh, we're back to taking turns?
Yes.
Well, how about Sugar River Pizza?
Oh, yeah. Now they can cook.
I could really go for some of that 12-hour smoked pulled pork.
Ooh, and some pasta. Okay, now I'm hungry. Sugar River, here we come.
And they have that great kids menu, too.
We don't have any kids.
Right. That's beside the point. The point is, I'm hungry. You're hungry.
Let's go.
Yes. And we should talk about having some kids.
Get in the car, Bob. Sugar River, Sun Prairie, Verona, New Glarus, and catering.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Here's a dose of reality. Driving under the influence of prescription painkillers is just as illegal and just as deadly as driving drunk. In fact, there are nearly 2,000 drug-related crashes every year in Wisconsin. Help prevent drugged driving, and let's achieve 0 preventable deaths on Wisconsin roadways. Driving on pills
talk a little more sports here at 7:22, just about 7:23 on this Wednesday morning. Let's work our way backwards from Sunday, where the Packers will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a Sunday night game, 7:20 kickoff, and so coverage will begin at 5 p.m. Sunday on several civic media stations. This is the part where producer Parker Olson makes his bold prediction on how the Packers are going to do against Aaron Rodgers. First time they've actually played him. Aaron Rodgers, if he defeats the Packers, it will be the 25th NFL team he's defeated, which would tie him with like everybody else for most number of times a quarterback has defeated all the other teams in the NFL. How's he going to do?
I don't know. He's looked really good, which like really worries me. I think he might kind of tear up the secondary that we have.
But he's also 71 years old, so it's very possible that he could fall and break a hip.
Micah Parsons could, yeah.
We get Micah Parsons from the Cowboys, and he goes after Aaron Rodgers. Oh boy. You could not have predicted this a couple of years ago, could you? That this is the matchup that we're talking about. But that is potentially what's in the works for Sunday. For Saturday, you've got the Badgers at Oregon. That, again, is a late game. Coverage will begin at 4 p.m. Saturday on several civic media stations. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn more. The Badger men's basketball team, it's an exhibition game, but their season's underway. You can catch some games on the Civic Media Radio Network on Friday. They're at Milwaukee's Fiserv Forum to take on Oklahoma. That's Friday at 7 p.m. as part of the, I wish we had the right echo sound effect here, the Bad Boy Mowers series.
Bad Boy Mowers series.
There, that was perfect. It was like so technical. So yeah, we're taking on Oklahoma. Badgers, Oklahoma men's basketball Friday at 7. And then there's an exhibition game next Wednesday at the Kohl Center versus Platteville. And then the season opener the following Monday, November 3rd at the Kohl Center versus Campbell University. The Campbell Fighting Camels getting the Badger men's basketball team going. So again, Friday night's game against Oklahoma, 7 p.m. Pre-game starts at 6:30 on civic media stations in Wisconsin Rapids and Amory and Richland Center. Can you believe we're talking basketball and hockey already?
Yeah. It's weird to me that they're playing Oklahoma first before they play Platteville. That seems
well, again, just
like a punch in the mouth to start.
Yeah.
And then a cupcake after.
Trial by fire, Yeah. Tony puts on YouTube, Steelers defense isn't very good. Joe Flacco lit them up and he's 80 years old. Well, there you go.
There you go.
So there is there is that possibility there. All right. Some of the other stories that we wanted to cover here for you include this whole notion of Donald Trump, the president of the United States, and his unique solutions to problems, and not necessarily our problems, but he had a problem with the trade deficit and found his own unique way to start a trade war with China, which is ending up hurting farmers in Wisconsin and across the country whose soybean markets to China have dried up as China has decided to buy its soybeans from Brazil and Argentina. And now we get word from President Trump that to help out his buddy in Argentina, he's going to look into purchasing more beef from Argentina. Not sitting real well with the aforementioned Wisconsin farmers and ranchers in other states who are looking at this guy, many of whom they voted for, and saying, "You're killing us here, man." Well, at least one Wisconsin dairy farmer has gone public with an alternative to that, and Larry Lee wrote about it over at Brownfield Ag News, saying that Mike Yeager, a dairy farmer from Mineral Point, has an alternative to Trump's sweetheart deal with Argentina. And he says, I think maybe we need to encourage the sales of dairy cows strictly going to slaughter. That'll put more beef on the market and ultimately take care of the surplus of milk. So you might be taking care of two birds with one stone. Trump says by putting more Argentine beef on the market, it would help bring consumer prices down. But again, we've got this surplus of milk here. We've got a surplus of dairy cows. And so perhaps culling the herd might be a better alternative that benefits Wisconsin farmers and the Wisconsin marketplace. Because from a national standpoint, you've got the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and the Ranchers Cattlemen Action Legal Fund and United Stock Growers of America and other farming groups. All of them have been some of Trump's biggest supporters, and they are all sharply critical of Trump's idea because of what it could do to ranchers and to feedlot operators. Plus, it runs counter to the stated purpose of Trump's tariffs, which is to encourage more domestic production and help American ranchers compete. But American ranchers and cattle farmers can't compete if they're being undercut by Argentine beef. Now, at the moment, Argentine beef accounts for a very small slice of beef imports, about 2%. And a lot of that is just for ground beef, so it may not do much for steak prices and things like that. But it has the potential. Every bit that comes in is a supply from U.S. farmers that isn't getting used. Now, beef prices have been soaring, thanks in part to the smallest U.S. herd size for beef cattle since 1961, due to years of low cattle prices and now drought, and Trump slapping a 50% tariff on beef from Brazil. And, oh, by the way, did I mention there's also Trump's ag secretary saying that, there's an infestation of New World screwworm from Mexico, and that there may be problems with hoof and mouth disease in Argentina that might affect Argentine beef imports. There's no shortage of reasons why you wouldn't do whatever you could from an American rural farmer and rancher perspective to help them, and at the same time, put more beef on the marketplace that could help drive prices down for consumers. There's only one real wrong way to go about doing this. And it's the one that the president of the United States is seeking right now to undercut American farmers, first the soybean farmers, now the cattle farmers and ranchers as well. Our homeroom segment coming up about the crazy state school funding system is coming up right after this break. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
.7 WMD.
All right there. Hi, Angie.
Hi, how are you, Pat?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
All right. You're president of the Viroqua School Board, right?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I got that straight there. And yeah, I think we'll just go over a lot of things that were gone over in the press conference and the challenges that you're facing there. I assume you've had a referendum or two over the past few years yourself.
We have. We've had one fail, and then finally we passed it. And that was a operational referendum.
Okay. Yep. So we'll get into operational referendums as well. So we will cover all of that in about 4 minutes here, but we just want to make sure your camera and audio are good, and they are. So I'm going to tuck you back in the waiting room, and we'll come get you in about 4 minutes.
All right. That sounds great. Thanks.
See you soon.
The only way to make a difference. Find your soybean difference maker at dairylandseedsoybeans.com.
This year, Jim Ford, a giant pumpkin grower from Fond du Lac, actually ended up topping the competition with his pumpkin that weighed in at 2,491 pounds. He's not alone when it comes to trying to grow those giant pumpkins. Thomas Motzma is from Brandon nearby, and he's been growing competitive giant pumpkins for over a decade. And he said, while you may be impressed with the size, it takes a lot of time and effort to get them that big.
And then they'll go out in the garden late April to early May, all depending on, what kind of spring we have. A lot of growers now will put them in mini tents or mini greenhouses, 5 by 10, 10 by 20. And then before we set that, we'll have heating cables usually dug in the ground. And then they get transplanted outdoors, like I said, late April, early May. And then they get the TLC from the greenhouse until they get big enough where the greenhouse will have to be taken off.
Thomas Motzma from the Brandon area explaining a little bit more about the dedication that has to go into producing the giant pumpkins you're hearing about at this time of the year. He said in Wisconsin, the giant pumpkin growers are always working towards a pumpkin that weighs 3,000 pounds or maybe better.
At Steffes Auctioneers, we don't just sell, we guide. Knowing what your equipment or land is worth isn't just a number, it's clarity. It's the first step in making smart decisions for your future. That's why we offer honest, market-based valuations with no pressure to sell. Just insight you can trust. Start with the conversation or start with the valuation. Steffes Auctioneers. We don't just sell, we guide. Not sure where to start? Let's talk. Visit steffesgroup.com right now. That's STEFFES group.com.
Maybe you've got one of those giant pumpkins we were talking about. We'd love to see a picture. You can send it to us through our brand new Midwest Farm Report app. Download it, available for both Apple and Android. Midwest Farm Report, and start using and interacting with us today. That's a look at food news. I'm Pam Yankee.
92.7 WMDX, Madison's real news and great conversation, and home to the Todd Allball Show, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Just an isolated light shower possible today. Otherwise cloudy, breezy, and chilly with high temperatures right around 50. For tonight, a fairly cold night for this time of year. Gradually decreasing clouds, low temperatures in the mid-30s. Currently, it's 44.
No fear here, just monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. This October, the only thing creeping near your bed is a deal too good to miss. We custom make every mattress so you know exactly what's inside. No tricks, just treats. Save hundreds on mattresses, foundations, headboards, sheets, and more. Monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Upgrade your bedroom and unleash the sleep of your dreams. American made, locally crafted, Verlo. Hurry in before these monster savings vanish. Verlo Mattress of Madison.
Join me, Tom Hartman, each and every weekday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Tom Hartman program right here on Civic Media. I talk about the issues that all Wisconsinites can get behind, from unrigging our economy so it works for all of us, not just the billionaire class, to improving our representative government, to delivering on the promise of we the people.
30 seconds until we're back.
Nice to have you back at 7:35 on this Wednesday morning. Now, there are local news updates throughout the course of our show here, 6 to 9 weekdays on the Civic Media Radio Network. But even as those local updates are happening on most stations, we continue yammering over here from Chippewa Falls and Madison. And if you'd ever like to listen into the show that way or watch what we're doing, there's always the Civic Media app where you can tune into one of the other stations that continues to play the network feed. You can certainly watch what we do on YouTube or Facebook. That would be the Up North News Facebook or YouTube pages, or the Civic Media YouTube and Facebook pages. Or you can sign up for us as a podcast. Head over to Spotify or Apple and follow the program that way. And you'll never miss a minute of what it is that we are talking about over here on weekday mornings, like at 7:35, 7:36 now, on Wednesday morning for our homeroom segment, when we talk about public education in Wisconsin and, its many positive qualities and the many threats that are out there, from privatization, from people playing politics with our schools, people playing politics with school funding in our state. We have a state funding system that is much more convoluted than it needs to be. And each session of the legislature, every 2 years when they write a new state budget, they try to work around the system as best they can. And in this last state budget, legislative Republicans and Democratic Governor Tony Evers finally reached a deal, but it is a deal that is not exactly sitting well with a large number of school districts that are not seeing much of an increase in general state aids. They're seeing some increased dollars in other parts of the budget, like special education. But on the whole, they are still having a tough time keeping up with inflation, conceivably leading to another record round of school referendums across the state. So joining us to talk more about it is the president of the school board in Viroqua, Angie Lawrence, who was also part of a news conference last week with some state lawmakers to describe the problems in the system and how school districts have to live with the reality of them in the here and now. And Angie Lawrence joins us now from Viroqua. Angie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pat. I'm great. How are you?
It's nice to have you. Thank you. Very well. Thank you very much. So we saw you in this news conference last week talking about the system here, which, again, if you take the party labels out of it and you just look at the system itself, this is not something that you or probably any other school board president would draw up on a napkin someplace and put into effect. And yet you have to learn it and deal with, the realities of the here and now. So let folks know what you were saying last week about general state aid in this new state budget and what it means for school districts like yours.
So number one, we don't even get the budget until October. So that's one of the problems. I mean, school starts, our annual budget starts in July. So I don't know how many businesses run their business by not having a budget until 5-6 months after their annual year begins. So that's one issue. So when this came out, this recent budget came out and their decisions, it affected a lot of school districts, millions and millions of dollars that they thought that they were going to receive and then they didn't receive. That wasn't the case in our district. We received a little over $8,000 less than what we had anticipated, but it didn't affect us as it did many other schools. What has affected us is the voucher program. So the voucher program, and I can give you an example, the Academy of Excellence in Milwaukee, for example, they are going to receive over $50 million this year from our local taxpayers. Their last year, only 18% of their students they only met expectations, 18%. Zero exceeded expectations in language arts. And then in math, only 13% of their students met expectations, with 0% exceeding expectations. I don't know about anybody out there, but if your school district had that type of success or failure, I think that you would be trying to contact the DPI. You would try to get the DPI in there. You would be trying to perhaps close the school because they were incapable of meeting the expectations for children and their educational outcomes. So that's one of the issues. Our school district spent almost $1.2 million from our local taxpayers for the voucher program this last year. So once again, we're supposed to provide a high quality of education for every student, and it's just not happening with this voucher program. They have no accountability. They say on the website that they hope that you'll take the test, but if you don't want to, that's all you have to do is send them an email. So they're not even advocating for students and families to take the test to see how accountable their educational system is in Milwaukee. They also have only 800 of their students actually attend in brick and mortar buildings in Milwaukee. So that means that there's, because they have about 3,700 students in their program, they did last year. And so that means that there's, 2,900 students that are homeschooled, which that was not the intent of the voucher program. And they're not perhaps testing. They don't know if the students are doing the work or if the parents are doing the work. They don't know if the students are taking the test or the parents are taking the test. And there's no accountability for these dollars. So I don't believe that that's our legislators' intent, but that's what's happening. It would be like the Viroqua Area School District saying, we're going to create a voucher school because we have brick and mortar. And we're going to include all of the Amish population. And we're not going to have licensed teachers. We're just going to let them teach. And we're going to let them follow their curriculum, whatever that might be. And then we're going to receive funding for it. And once again, I do not think that's the intent of our legislators, but that is something that could happen that would bring dollars to our school district without us really having to do anything at all. I mean, that's ludicrous. We're not going to do that. But those are the types of things that can happen because of how the voucher program is running. And then you spoke out about referendums. So we have passed 2 referendi in the last 4 or 5 years. One was brick and mortar. We added a very large technical education component to our school and updated the equipment, which was very much necessary, and then made some repairs that were needed. And that was a $20 million referendum. And we were very, very fortunate to have support of our community. But we did have a failed referendum, and that was operational. And then we had to go back to the community and ask for the dollars again. And that this time when we did pass, it was only for 2 years. So now we're going to have to go to a referendum again in another year to ask our community to assist in funding our school. This costs a lot of money. It's a huge amount of time and effort to explain why we need it. Our community, like I said, is very philanthropic. They support schools. But why are we going every 2 or 3 years to referendum? And a big part of it is the state budget. The state budget only lasts for 2 years. So we never know what's going to happen in the next 2 years. If they're going to take money away from us, if they're going to add a small amount, if it's going to meet inflation. So this has become a huge problem for trying to operate our school districts and prepare for the future. And there's also a bunch of inequity. I mean, I could go on and on forever with this, but it's creating more inequity for students because your poor communities are failing at a very large rate their referendum that they're trying to pass. And your wealthy school districts are passing their referendum. And so that's creating, like I said, a huge separation between the haves and the have-nots. And I believe in every child receiving a very high level of education, and I'm sure all your listeners do as well. But why is our state and all our tax dollars not going to the state, and then all of those dollars are being dispersed equally with every student versus having to go to a referendum and trying to pass something and spending, like I said, a very large amount of money, a very large amount of time and energy, and you don't know if it's going to pass or not.
No.
So how do you keep your teachers? How do you keep your programs? It doesn't make any sense.
No, there's such uncertainty as a result of the system. Angie Lawrence is the president of the school board in Viroqua, and we're talking about the many flaws in the system that were frankly only exacerbated by this new state budget. And for all the wisecracks about people talking about government schools and resources, well, imagine how much fewer the challenges would be if you weren't skimming nearly $1 billion a year off the top and taking that away and giving it to these schools that are not accountable, that are not nearly as transparent, that are doing things, like you said, where their students are opting out of standardized tests at an alarming rate and leading, therefore, to more referendums. The system, as much as we say there are problems with it, the fact of the matter is the basics are pretty easy to understand. We have a Wisconsin Constitution that says that, education should be supported in as uniform a way as practicable. These are things that we can get back to those standards. There was a blue ribbon commission dedicated to fixing this system with Republicans and Democrats on it, and yet nothing has come of it since. So, Angie, this is just all to say, we can identify the flaws in the system. We can also fix the flaws in the system if we could get lawmakers that wanted to take your concerns seriously.
Well, it's not rocket science.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about deferring tax dollars, property tax dollars from different communities, having to raise those tax dollars versus the state saying, you know what, we're going to raise taxes and it's all going to go to schools not all of the dollars, obviously, but it's going to go to schools so that every child in the state of Wisconsin receives a high quality education. And taxpayers should be able to understand that, because they're already paying more in property taxation by passing a referendum. I mean, and schools are fiscally responsible. It's not like we're spending needless dollars to educate our kids. And the budget is not meeting inflation. Our state is becoming funded at a lower rate than all of the others, not all the other states, but it's, I think we're 24th right now. Don't quote me on that, as far as state funding. So we can do way better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was once upon a time when Wisconsin was in or near a top 10 for support of our public schools. Some politicians said that was too much. Well, now as we're dropping to the middle of the pack and below, you wonder at what point they're going to say, okay, that's enough. We don't want to fall to the very bottom. Well, unfortunately, it seems like some politicians want exactly that as part of the ongoing push to privatization. And it's what we follow in this segment with good people like Angie Lawrence, who serves as president of the Viroqua School Board. Angie, I really appreciate your expertise and your service. Thank you so much for joining us today to share more of the background about it.
There's one more thing. You know, they say that they're funding students that have some type of a disability, but actually, if you look at how their formula works out, we're not receiving hardly any dollars for students with disabilities.
Exactly. More things to examine there. Angie, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Coming up in the next hour, we'll be talking to Earl Ingram of the What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast. That and more still ahead. Dr. Kristin Lyerly joining us at 8:35. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
This portion of the John and Gordy Show is brought to you by Madison Hearing.
I don't know why I even talked. I should have just said, Angie, go. Just let her cook. Go. You know, maybe bring Jimmy on to give a couple of amens here and there. And that's
I genuinely thought you left, Pat.
It was like, let her go. She is going. Yes. It's like, why? People hear me say this stuff all the time. Hear it from a school board president. Oh boy. Anyway, how's Jimmy today?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. School board is a very interesting place to be right now. So
yeah, no doubt there.
We have our annual meeting here in a week or so.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Anything you need me to tee up with here?
I mean, I got a lot of sports stuff prepped, but I don't have a lot of news stuff because I mean, there's the third CD poll that came out yesterday. Everybody's talking about, but
yeah.
There's not really a lot else happening that's not political right now. So
yep, that's okay. We got stuff. So let's see. What else do I need here?
Do you have anything about the branch campus closing?
I mean, I'm the one who shared that it was happening.
Yeah.
I mean, initially, because I got the email in my Platteville email, but I can't really talk about that because I'm a UW Platteville employee. So probably don't ask me about that.
Okay. No, not a problem. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, just over a minute and a half, and then we'll get going here.
Authorizing state officials to create a state-run interstate voter registration cross-check system. Over 2 years later, and on the eve of the team system's rollout, VoteBeat Texas reports that 4 organizations representing Texas election officials cited inconsistent system behavior, only intermittent and under-resourced support, and statewide training gaps. Just last month, Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson announced agreements with 9 states to share and compare voter registration data in an effort to replace the Electronic Registration Information Center's sophisticated data processing capability to identify voters who moved, died, or registered in more than one state. The Texas election officials said in their letter, the current state of the team rollout creates undue risk to voters and the integrity of election officials and urged action before November 4th. We've linked to local reporting at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
You'll find monster savings during October at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Save on adjustable bases, now 30 to 50% off. Prepare for a sleep sanctuary like no other with their amazing accessory offers.
25 seconds until we're back.
All right, let's visit now with Civic Media Sports Director Jimmy Koska. Very busy time of year here. We had been talking baseball. We're moving into football, basketball, and hockey are getting underway here as well. You got the Badgers, men who are starting their exhibition season, high school football playoffs. How do you even triage all this, Jimmy, when you're following it all?
One step at a time. I mean, football is kind of first and foremost. I got the basketball football hat on today because this is our all conference meeting today. It's our kind of our final duty. Because we're eliminated, we're not in the playoffs. This is our final duty as football coaches for the 2025 season. And then we're on to the off season with that. But for the teams that are in the playoffs, 8-player playoffs began last Saturday. Went very largely chalk in that round, and then the 11-player playoffs begin this Friday. And that's the remaining 224 teams that are playing at 11 players. So this time of year is exciting. Last night was the start of volleyball, of course, and soccer. We have cross-country sectionals this week. Tennis is already at state. Golf is already at state. So this time of year for high school alone is really busy. But as you said, there are also obviously there was the overlap. We had the Brewers in action as of last week. The Bucks got underway last night. You've got the Packers going, the Badgers. It is all happening right this second, right now in sports.
Well, let's start with something wildly speculative on the Brewers, and then we'll get to the concrete stuff that's actually happening. Brandon Woodruff, is he coming? What are we going to have for starting pitchers coming back next year?
Please don't.
It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing every offseason, right? Like you look at it, you're like, well, we don't really know what we're going to come into next year with, and then there's going to be the offseason move or two where you're wondering, okay, what just happened? What are the Brewers doing? And they show up in the spring, and they've got a pitching staff, and you can't name half the guys. That's what's going to happen again this year. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing because that's what they do, and B, they have to stay under a certain financial threshold that some teams, the Dodgers, don't worry about.
Yes, and that's what you're hearing is that Mark Atanasio and others need to open things up a little bit more. Which, look, I am not here to defend or apologize. Billionaires and multimillionaires and all that. I'm just trying to temper expectations when you're in the smallest market in the league.
Yeah, the Brewers' share of spending on the roster compared to revenue is among the lowest in Major League Baseball. It's in the bottom 10.
Okay.
But this is, and you're right. It's a small market. There's not a big payout coming, if you will, from anything that happens in the market. So.
No. So you either have to, bring that percentage up, which is a little bit less of a percentage for the ownership. But you know what brings in more revenue? Winning in the postseason and going deeper into it. So, I mean, even Freddie Peralta, as I understand, they don't have to trade him this coming year, but there might be reasons to trade him early while you can get the most value, especially a guy who you already know is going to reach 100 pitches, by the 6th inning. So he's in no danger of ever having a complete game. So, I don't know if his value is really that much more this year compared to next year.
It's what they do with Corbin Burns, right? It's what they've done historically is try to max out their value, and especially pitchers. They seem to find and develop pitchers like you wouldn't believe, and they've still got a strong farm system. So that'll be an interesting case to follow. I mean, if he goes, I think it just tracks with everything else the Brewers have done.
Which, by the way, not the same as Corbin Burnson, the actor. I learned that earlier today, the hard way. All right, you mentioned high school football playoffs, which I'm sure are still on one or two Civic Media stations heading into the postseason here.
Yeah, right now I think I've got 5 or 6 games scheduled this week across the network, and that's just Wisconsin teams. We just added a bunch of stations on the UP, and they do high school football as well, and that's exciting. We've got football on a number of signals around the state, and as you might imagine, some of those stations are also doing some of the other sports. I think last night we had 2 soccer matches and then a volleyball match. as well on the radio. So for civic media stations across the network, just check your local station. We've got the calendars right up on the front page of those websites.
That is awesome. All right, let's kind of speed through what we've got also on the civic media calendar. On Friday, you've got the Badger men's basketball team taking on Oklahoma. It's an exhibition game. Coverage
the easier of the two exhibition games, by the way.
Coverage begins at 6:30 Friday on several stations, and then Platteville the following week, and then the regular season begins. That's
they'll play. They have Platteville on Wednesday next week, and Platteville just graduated a trio of 5-year seniors who contributed massive amounts to the program. Be a bit of a different look this year, but what is great about the Platteville Wisconsin game is they use that game too to fundraise for Guarding Against Cancer.
Yes.
So they do turn that into a fundraiser. Of course, Jeff Gard, the head coach at Platteville, and Greg Gard, the head coach at Wisconsin, are brothers from mighty Cobb, Wisconsin. So there's a fundraising component to that as well.
Okay, and then we've got on Saturday, the Badger football team is at Oregon. Coverage begins at 4 p.m. Kind of a later game there. Any bold predictions on how that one's going to go, Jimmy?
It'll be the last night game the Badgers get this year.
Okay,
that's
it. There's your prediction.
That's my prediction because we had a thread yesterday in our civic media sports group chat about just how much in pain we were. The Big Ten power rankings of the Badgers 18th out of 18. It is sad times right now.
18th in the Big Ten.
Out of 18.
That hurts. And then of course you've got the Packers Sunday against Pittsburgh. First time taking on Aaron Rodgers because we didn't play him when he was with the Jets at all. How do you think that's going to go?
The Steelers uniforms are going to be dominating the conversation, I think, on that one. But I think what'll be fun for people who follow the Packers is they're going to see a lot of Wisconsin ties in the Steelers, between obviously Aaron Rodgers, but also TJ Watt, Keanu Benton. You're also going to see Nick Herbig. You're going to see a lot of familiar names on the Steelers roster. So I think that'll be kind of fun in a way for people who really get deep into the lore of Wisconsin football or even high school football in Wisconsin. I think that'll be kind of a fun treat for them.
And then finally, the World Series is going to be Toronto versus the Dodgers. For Toronto, that includes Marshfield native Dalton Varsho. You going to be watching that?
Well, it's funny. It's hard to watch playoff sports on TV when you don't have like a satellite or over the air. So if it's not on an app, I'm probably not going to get it. But hey, I think they have it right. Toronto is America's team right now. So
Toronto is America's team. I like that. Oh, Canada. Jimmy Koska, thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Take care, man.
All right. Earl Ingram is standing by, and then Dr. Kristin Lyerly as well in the next hour. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Oh, Canada. All right, Jimmy, thank you.
I mean, who's rooting for the Dodgers? It's like rooting for the Death Star. I don't know who's rooting for the Dodgers. All right, take care, guys.
All right, thank you.
See you, Jimmy.
Mr. Olson, I am hearing something bleed through. Are you hearing some kind of audio bleed through of a newscast?
No.
I was hearing it more when Jimmy was on, so maybe it was through that connection.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh no, I'm very definitely catching something here. Now, I'll go check and make sure it's not. No, it can't be one of my tabs because I had to restart everything, so I don't have any tabs playing audio right now.
Are you sure it's in your headphones and not a TV around you?
Nope, nothing like that going on here. Yeah, I think I'm hearing Savannah. It's very faint though.
I don't have that on.
Okay. All right.
Of the government.
Now I just put it up.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
That I just put it up, and now it's back down and off.
Yeah, it's not off in my headphones. It's extremely faint, but it's not off. Yeah, bring it up again.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. More than 24 positions.
Bring it down.
Sheriff's.
Yeah, it's there. It's extremely faint, but it's there. Now, this is where we actually get to do secret show research to Tony and anybody else. We're going to shut up in a minute here, and you let us know if you can catch a bleed through on there. All right, I'm going to pop Earl in and see what Earl would like to chat about today. Good morning, Earl.
Hey, good morning, Pat. Can you hear me?
I hear you great. Yes.
So,
what do we got today?
Well, actually, I wanted to talk about a couple things. The No Kings rally that I emceed in Milwaukee on Saturday. But I also want to talk about the Voting Rights Act and the impact of what I think is the third prong of an assault on African Americans in this country. The affirmative action, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now this attack on the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's not a lot of conversation being had, but in my community, there is outrage because at the end of this, it is clear of what is transpiring in this country. And as an African American, as a black man who's lived in this country my entire life, I'm outraged and that this can take place. And I keep hearing people say, well, we're better than this. I don't know.
I don't know either. Nope, I don't. All right, good. We got plenty to work with there. All right, I'll see you in about 3 minutes here.
All right.
Bucks basketball is back. Hi, I'm Mike
That's me
Clemens
bringing
with
it up.
Sports NBA. The Bucks begin their 58th season tonight in Milwaukee when they host the Wizards. Their new center, Miles Turner, says they've had a new level of energy preparing for tonight's game.
This past week of practice have been very intense. I think it's been really good. Guys are talking up, making noise, just talking back and forth and whatnot. And I think that's how it's supposed to be, especially throughout the year. You know what I'm saying? We're intense in practice when it makes the games that much easier.
NFL, the Packers at practice for Sunday night in Pittsburgh. Matt LaFleur downplaying the matchup against the Steelers quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
I don't even know if many of these guys played with him. So, there's a few guys, but I think that's just for you guys. I'm going to talk about, just like we do every week, what is our blueprint and what are our keys in order to go to Pittsburgh, which is a damn good football team and a really tough, hostile environment, and try to play our best.
That's Matt LaFleur with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Just an isolated light shower possible today. Otherwise cloudy, breezy, and chilly with high temperatures right around 50. For tonight, a fairly cold night for this time of year. Gradually decreasing clouds, low temperatures in the mid-30s. Currently, it's 44.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media.
Many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping.
Because when you talk, they hear you.
Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The Jon and Gordy Show.
And then they settle for lower tariffs, but still high tariffs. And everybody's going, oh, what a relief. No, it wasn't a relief. It was a distraction. It was a con.
We have Matt on the phone.
MAGA is a big cop-out. It's all smoke and mirrors because they know they can't compete with China. So instead of trying to invest and compete, we're just going to make most of the Americans poor and impoverished. We're going to go back to slavery.
30 seconds until we're back.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Which you can find at upnorthnewswi.com and sign up for our morning newsletter there as well. Good morning. It's 8:06. Nice to have you back here up north on a Wednesday morning, October 22nd, 2025. Earl Ingram standing by to talk about what he's doing for Civic Media and the What's Going On podcast. We'll talk to Melissa Baldoff with this week's climate check. And Dr. Kristin Lyerly will make a special Wednesday appearance after a virtual news conference yesterday with actress Halle Berry, talking in favor of a bipartisan bill in the Wisconsin Legislature on the subject of menopause. So we'll talk a little women's health coming up at 8:35. Now, Dr. Lyerly has run for office and come up short. I've won an election and then lost 2 elections after that. But at no point has it ever occurred to us that we might want to run again. And then a New York Times article would show up with basically most people anonymously saying, don't run again. And that's exactly what happened yesterday in the New York Times regarding Mandela Barnes, the former lieutenant governor whose name is still out there as a potential candidate for governor next year. Pretty much every other name that's been talked about, those folks have either gotten into the race or out of the race. But the New York Times has an article that is chock full of folks who are hinting that they don't want to see the former lieutenant governor going up against potentially Congressman Tom Tiffany because of how he fell short against Ron Johnson a couple of years back. And like I said, by and large, folks were kind of saying it without saying it. But there was one person who did say it, and that was former Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton, who served as lieutenant governor under Jim Doyle, and said of Mandela Barnes's 2022 race, quote, "He proved to us beyond a shadow of a doubt that he can't run hard enough and give us a winning campaign on a statewide basis." That's from Barbara Lawton. And then others saying that if he gets in, do not expect what happened when he ran for U.S. Senate, where the other primary candidates got out and deferred to him, that there will be a primary all the way through the finish line if he were to get in. So again, that's an article in the New York Times about a potential candidate for governor in Wisconsin next year. Let's bring in Earl Ingram now from the What's Going On podcast. With Earl Ingram, head over to civicmedia.us to learn more about that. Earl was most recently the MC for the No Kings rally in Milwaukee last weekend. Earl, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, but that subject that you just talked about, I got to chime in on that. Mandela Barnes is a longtime friend, a young man whose career I followed and had a connection with. He called me this past Wednesday before this article came out and said to me his intentions on getting into this race. He told me about an interviewer from the New York Times that was going to do this hatchet job on him, and he asked for that interviewer from the New York Times to give me a call. I was awaiting that call. Supposedly, I was supposed to have gotten that call because I was going to say something completely different than what Ms. Lawton and others have said in regards to this race. Let's be clear. Mandela Barnes, to call him a loser, he lost by 1 percentage point to a sitting United States senator. What are people talking about? To say that that's a failure is unbelievably wrong, and to mislead people with this article to say, well, he's not the guy, he can't win a statewide race. Those things are untrue. And when you look at the people who are running, Mandela Barnes, national recognition, that United States Senate race was nip and tuck till the end. If there hadn't been things that were said horribly in the black community by a black talk show host on a different radio station condemning Mandela Barnes, enough blacks would have came out, voted for him. We would be talking about a guy who's a United States senator. So I am outraged that Barbara Lawton and others who are making these assertions that he can't win, absolutely incorrect. He has statewide recognition. He's traveled this state. People are aware of who he is, more so than David Crowley or almost anybody else who's in the race.
I am so glad you brought up the fact that the reporter here, Reed Epstein, has been covering Wisconsin politics for publications before the New York Times and then the New York Times for more than 20 years now. So Reed Epstein's name is familiar in Wisconsin political circles, and I'm frankly shocked that Mandela Barnes referred Reed Epstein to talk to somebody like you, and you heard nothing? He did not reach out to you for a quote or reaction or anything like that. And I'll let Reed Epstein speak for himself, but that speaks volumes to me that he didn't reach out to you.
Well, so as a matter of fact, as late as Monday, I got a call from Mandela Barnes's chief of staff in this campaign asking if I had been contacted by this reporter. And she was surprised to find out that I had not been, because he said he was going to contact me, and I would have spoke up on behalf of Mandela Barnes. He's got a better shot. His name recognition, he enters into the race, and he'll be either leading in the leader and all the people who are in the race. Just absolutely correct.
Yeah, let's be clear about something about 2022. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying Mandela Barnes ran a perfect campaign. He did not. But let's make clear, he did not lose that race so much as Ron Johnson didn't lose, only because the decaying carcass of his campaign was dragged across the finish line by billionaires who spent big after getting huge tax breaks from Ron Johnson, running the most wildly racist ads that we've seen in Wisconsin history. And that provided the closest U.S. Senate race in Wisconsin history. And so for people to just completely write off Mandela Barnes because of the way that he was attacked in the waning days of a campaign, to drag Ron Johnson over the finish line, who has never been above 50% approval in this state, is rather telling.
Outlandish, outrageous, and that's not going to deter Mandela Barnes from getting in the race, I guarantee you.
Yeah. Earl Ingram joining us, and you can follow his podcast at civicmedia.us for the What's Going On with Earl Ingram show, the podcast that's there. Let's get to the No Kings rally that you told us last week you were going to be emceeing. They were telling you that the turnout was going to be higher than back in June. Boy, did it turn out to be true. That was quite a turnout.
Well, you know, Pat, in truth, they also said that Antifa was going to be there.
Can I tell you, just to interrupt to say, people that they want to say, oh, Antifa this, Antifa that. I saw a great post yesterday saying, if Antifa were real, I'd be getting text donation solicitations from them, because every other Democratic and progressive group is sending you countless text messages. Send us money. I'm not getting those from Antifa. So it ain't so much a real group, Earl.
Well, Hamas is going to be there. And as I said to the crowd, as I look around, they said Antifa, Hamas, and criminals were going to be here. Well, guess what? I didn't see any billionaires. Okay. If you want to talk about criminals and those types of things, what was there was your average, everyday, rank and file American. I can tell you that I've been around long enough, and I remember the Republicans. What was the name of their group that was around, and they were protesting about 20 years ago?
A Republican group that
they were organized at the Tea Party.
The Tea Party, of course, the Tea Party.
Okay.
Right.
And the Tea Party had the exact same makeup.
Mm-hmm.
People from my generation and older who have clearly had enough, who were organized and who were fighting. That's what was there.
It was just, again, this whole notion of this is going to be filled with terrorists and billionaires and, 7-8 million Americans. You can't possibly pay off that many people to do this. It was extremely organic. And so, again, I'm glad you could play the role of MC for that particular one. I don't want to lose time for you to talk about the ongoing assault against the Voting Rights Act. It is looking very much like the conservative justices on the court are looking to kill what's left of the Voting Rights Act, which would only be just the latest assault on civil rights in this country, Earl.
So 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, and it was passed. It was a piece of federal legislation, that the United States created to combat racial discrimination. And I can tell you that it is the third prong, Pat, of the destruction of rights that were put in place to combat the racism and discrimination that this nation had at its source. And so in my community, we are outraged that these kinds of conversations are going on, and not only going on, but not being talked about enough. And I keep hearing people say, well, we're better than that. That's not the kind of nation we are. I don't know about that.
No.
Because to watch what is transpiring and the rollback of the rights that people fought, bled, and died for, and to say that we are a nation of laws, to say that, everybody's welcome in this nation. Well, listen, I'm born and raised in this nation, and many like me. And to look at what is transpiring and for there not to be enough noise being made about it, I've lost a lot of respect that I had for this nation. And I don't know if I'll ever in my lifetime ever get it back.
Well, it's completely understandable because of, like you said, it's a three-pronged attack. First, it was affirmative action, and then it was this, DEI, assault that was going on. And having found success in both those areas, they're just going for, for the brass ring right now, which is tearing down civil rights legislation that, tried to undo generations of institutional racism in this country. And the code words and the winks that are going on about this debate are just nauseating, Earl.
Well, it's more than that for my community, because what we see is, my generation is reaching the end of our life cycle. And so we saw the changes that my mother and father had to deal with. And so my generation benefited from those laws, because we were able to live a middle-class lifestyle predicated on those laws that were passed. But our grandchildren and great-grandchildren face an uncertain future with these decisions that are being made. Can't hurt me and my generation, because we're coming to an end. But for those future generations, this is unacceptable. And as I say to people in my community, can't be allowed without a fight. But we need American citizens to talk about and do what's right.
Earl Ingram, you can catch his What's Going On podcast over at civicmedia.us. Click on shows to learn more. Earl, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
You as well.
All right. We'll have our climate check coming up, and then Dr. Kristin Lyerly in 15 minutes. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. And there's Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Did you hear a discussion about the New York Times article about Mandela?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. Earl was less than happy that Reed Epstein didn't reach out to him after Mandela's people asked him to reach out to Earl, and that wasn't the case. So Earl had some thoughts on that article yesterday that I'm sure you saw.
I did see.
Yeah, Joe was quoted in there as well, so I'll ask him about it tomorrow. But anyway, interesting stuff, shall we say?
Yeah, and not the best stuff.
No. Anything else that you want to do other than kind of what we talked about yesterday with the list?
I would also just, if it's, speaking of Mandela, I would also really love to plug the Forward Together Wisconsin convening that's coming up.
Sure.
And just, because that's something that's positive, of, hey, the work is still happening, and yeah.
Okay. Nope. Well, we can get right into that. I don't know what I heard ding, but can you turn off whatever notification you got going on over there?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure. Otherwise, Parker yells at me, and I don't like that.
Well, first I yell at her, then I yell at you.
No, you yell at me. It hurts my feelings. All right, sounds good. All right, 60 seconds, and we'll get going.
30 seconds.
Let's get to this week's climate check with Melissa Baldoff. This time with one of the usual disclaimers in the Trump presidency is we're going to be sharing some headlines related to the climate that are not necessarily going to make you happy, might actually make you enraged. And you go, why are you sharing this with us? Well, first, A, so you know exactly what this administration is doing. But B, as a reminder, these are real problems that are out there, that if they're not being addressed by this White House, then you have to look for other ways to address them. We've talked about that either at the state or the local level, or, industries, talking amongst themselves and reaching standards and things. You'll see what I mean coming up, but I'm just cautioning you ahead that there seems to be extra headlines this week about ways that this administration is basically giving the planet a big middle finger. But before we get to that, there is still some good climate news out there, especially at the Wisconsin level. And so Melissa's here now to talk about Forward Together Wisconsin and the work that they're doing for folks that want to make a difference in their homes and schools and businesses. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
All right. So let's talk about that. What it is that's still available and the progress that still can be made at the state level.
Yeah. So this is something that Forward Together Wisconsin is really excited about. This is the second time the organization has held this event. It is a convening that will take place next month on November 6th in Milwaukee. And it is an opportunity for folks from all over the state to come together and, talk about successes, talk about opportunities. And this year, given, what we saw from the federal government, from the Trump administration, it's really an opportunity to talk about how the work continues without the support of the federal government, because it can feel very heavy and, discouraging that you see the headlines like the ones we're going to get into about the money that's been cut, and the disinvestment, which is awful. And, we want to make sure we're holding people accountable for those votes that they took, for those decisions they made. But it's important for people to remember that work in the renewable energy space and growing the clean energy economy, that was happening before the IRA, and it's going to continue after. And so this convening is an opportunity for people to come together, talk about how that work continues, and talk about how collectively we are holding people accountable for their bad decisions, and how we're supporting folks at the state level who want to advance things here in Wisconsin, because we do have, a governor who's a climate champion, and we have some opportunities here in the state as well. So it's just a great opportunity for people to come together, have those conversations, learn a lot. One of the things we're really excited about this year is a panel devoted entirely to flooding and resilience and what happened here in Southeast Wisconsin, how people can recover, and what resources are available to mitigate this in the future and help folks who have been impacted recover. So if anyone's interested in attending this event, it's no cost for attendees, because we had some really generous sponsors, and they can go to forwardtogetherwi.org and learn more.
Again, Forward Together, wi.org, to learn more. Forward Together Wisconsin, by the way, that's the group that is, one of the folks helping run things, former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. So perhaps Reed Epstein from the New York Times might want to attend this November 6th gathering and learn a bit more about the leadership that's being shown in this area. Just my own two cents on that particular topic. Let's turn to, what else is happening in climate news. And again, it's almost like if you'd asked ChatGPT, prior to Donald Trump coming on the scene, write a series of dystopian headlines about a president hostile to the climate, you would get things like this. The government is shut down, but not for the people who issue permits for oil, gas, and mining operations. You've got Trump administration pressures countries to delay fees to clean up ship pollution. You've got the Trump tariff fight with China means trouble for a vast wilderness in Brazil as farmers lobby to roll back deforestation restrictions so that they can grow and sell more soybeans to China. How FEMA is forcing disaster-struck towns to fend for themselves. Trump has said he wants to shift the burden of disaster relief onto the states because that's something that's feasibly possible. And on and on and on it goes. Did any one of these or something else really, stick in your craw this week as you looked at all the new headlines?
Definitely knowing that, it's already tough that we know that the administration is prioritizing the fossil fuel industry. But knowing that those folks are still working, still getting paid, I'm sure. And we've got other federal workers not getting paid. And we've got, a situation where we're going to run out of food share benefits in Wisconsin in 9 days because the government is shut down. So that one really, really got me. And then also knowing that they want to force, if that FEMA is going to just say, hey, everybody's on their own. I think about, just being from Florida and the devastating impact of hurricanes that are happening frequently and really impacting the southeastern part of the country the most, and a lot of states that have voted for Donald Trump, and in red states that maybe don't have a state income tax and are not as well resourced as other states. Those are going to be hit the hardest and are going to have the least ability to recover. As much as it's difficult in a place like Wisconsin when we're recovering from flooding or tornadoes, we do have a governor here, fortunately, that is going to prioritize the safety and well-being and recovery of our residents. And in other states, that's just, there's no guarantee of that for those folks.
There you go. Melissa Baldoff with our climate check this week. Melissa, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
All right. One more headline. A coal processing plant near Pittsburgh shut down. Emergency room visits dropped sharply because there were fewer respiratory issues. And somebody wants to bring all that back. Dr. Kristin Lyerly next. You're up north. Whew. Okie dokie.
Oh,
we're packing a lot in today.
Oh yeah. Have you gone through? I'm sure you have, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Have you gone through all of your windows and tabs and everything to make sure that you don't have?
Yep. I'm sure it's, when something comes back through StreamYard to me and, it's on your board and I don't know how your board feeds to the computer that's got StreamYard. So I don't know if somehow you've got the commercial feed bleeding through on the same bus as your microphone or what.
No, I can't. It's off and it's turned all the way down.
Tell you what, actually, here's what I'm going to do. Here's a good thing to try because still hearing it. I'm actually going to mute you in StreamYard here and see if that gets me something. Nope. Still coming through. So, okay. Now we know it's not from there. How could I be getting... Let me close up this window here. Nope, still there.
Do you have a news article that's open that has something playing?
Well, it would have to be playing exactly the commercials that you're playing right now because that's what I'm hearing. And there are no other tabs. It's exactly the commercial break audio.
Oh.
Huh. So is there something on that computer where there might be a tab open that you can
no, because
feed?
because we muted. I was muted in StreamYard for a minute there, so that shouldn't. None of my audio should be going at all.
Yeah.
If I'm muted in StreamYard. So
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, how are
Wednesday.
you guys?
Yeah,
I
know.
know. We're going to
Wednesday.
talk about menopause. It's
I
a
know.
great conversation for
I
you to
know.
be in, Parker.
She is. She's here for it. And Parker disappears. Okay. There
Yeah.
you go.
I didn't even say herpes.
So you listened back to the whole thing there, as did Dr. Kreitlow, and there are some issues that she would have with, some of the things that were being described, but the underlying point is still there, that education is good, and that was a lot of use of the term herpes in one interview. Yeah.
In a short period of time, it was very concentrated.
Yes. Yep. So Sherry listened to the whole 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And I said, do you think there's any value in playing that whole thing? She's like, I'm begging you not to play that whole thing.
I mean, if I noticed that it seemed like a lot, I could imagine that
She
there
was
would be a lot of
and it's great that she's comfortable talking about it. I do worry about whether it's a current or an ex-boyfriend who is so easily thrown under the bus in the telling of the story. It's not like people can't do math and figure out who she was dating when she was 54,
yeah.
So I don't know.
The thing I loved about it, though, as I was thinking about just who she is and what she has accomplished and just what an incredible woman she is and how much it takes a lot of guts to speak out about something this personal, but it gives other people the license to do it.
Yes.
So that was, I really, really appreciate her. It inspired me. I called Rep Vining after that and we had a long conversation. And now we have a plan.
Oh, good. Okay. I think I know what that plan's going to ultimately be, and that's going to be super cool.
Yeah.
So look at you go. When do you leave for Pittsburgh?
Tomorrow.
Okay. That'll be nice. And that's an ACOG thing?
No, it's a Committee to Protect Healthcare, which is, I chair that board. And then Society of Family Planning is the weekend event.
Cool.
Which is like the doctors who do, it's like a subspecialty of OBGYN. So they do all the birth control and the abortion care and
gotcha
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
30s.
Very nice. All right. Sounds good. Just about 20 seconds.
Okay.
But you will be here Friday or no?
I will be here Friday, and my show is about menopause this weekend.
Okay. Sounds good.
15 seconds.
Along with signing up for the daily newsletter from Up North News, because goodness knows I tell you about that enough times, there's also a newsletter from Civic Media that you should be making a regular part of your inbox, Civic Media Today, with all kinds of links to show highlights and tell you about guests past and future. Sign up at civicmediatoday.substack.com. Again, civicmediatoday.substack.com. And remember, you can always reach Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News, by phone or by text or through the Civic Media app, 855-75-CIVIC, or send us a voice note through the app as well. All right, today we're going to spend a little time talking to Dr. Kristin Lyerly about doctorly things. As an OBGYN, we get into a lot of reproductive health rights and politics and things like that. We haven't really talked women's health for some time, but Halle Berry is making sure that we do that because the actor and menopause advocate spoke with some Wisconsin legislators yesterday about a bill that would increase the ability for women to receive fact-based information about menopause, something that Dr. Lyerly deals with her patient base on a regular basis. How's Kristin this morning?
Let's be honest. I begged you to put me on the show this morning because I want to talk about menopause because it's something we do not talk about and it affects everybody. Once you hit midlife, if you are lucky enough to get that far, you will go through menopause. And it is not just hot flashes and your period stops. It's all this weird stuff. And that's the beauty of Halle Berry, because as she tells her story, it's this was happening to me and I couldn't get answers. And I went to my doctor who I trusted and I knew and I know is smart, and I didn't get the right answer. And it's because our entire system is set up not to teach people about what menopause is, how you might experience it, and what the implications are for the rest of your life.
And I'm going to tell this story real quick, and then we're going to play some of the Halle Berry audio from yesterday. But I have said, and this helps being married to an OBGYN, that I will never hesitate to do a segment on menopause, because when I worked at the TV station, we tried to get a female doctor to talk about menopause and couldn't find one. My own spouse was camera shy, and we finally got a guy to talk about it, and all he could focus on was bedroom stuff. And every question, he kept bringing it back to bedroom stuff and not anything else that's happening with women. And I mean, it went so off the rails that we've always had it in us go, okay, we need to do right by this topic. And so that leads us up to Halle Berry talking about, she gave a lot of detail, more detail than we're going to play on the radio.
A lot of detail. She
about
was frank. 3
different health concerns that she had. And in the first couple, she wasn't getting great information, in part because even though it turned out they were linked to menopause, these doctors didn't know about it. Then after the third doctor, she finally got some more clarity about menopause. By her own admission, she never really considered menopause, never thought about it, never learned about it, and is now a staunch advocate to make sure doctors are fully up to speed as well as patients. And so here's a little over 2 minutes of what Halle Berry had to say about the importance of menopause education and resources.
He looked at me and he said, kind of know what it is, but I can't really say it. I said, what do you mean you can't really say it? He said, I can't really say it to you, but I'm going to give you some eye drops that I want you to start using. And I said, wait, but what is wrong with my eyes, doc? And he said, okay, I'm going to say it, but you're going to kill me. But I think it's because of menopause. And I said, exactly. You ding, 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 winner, chicken dinner. It's menopause. But the thing was, he didn't want to say it to me. And I said, doc, why couldn't you just say that to me? You're my healthcare provider. You're my doctor. And he said, because my patients don't want to hear they're in menopause. It scares them. They think they're getting old, like they will punch me. They'll leave me. I'm worried about that. I don't want to lose my patients, but women don't want to be told they're in menopause. Well, why is that? Why are we so afraid of menopause? Because we have zero education around it. It's stigmatized. We're afraid because we're ignorant to what is happening to our bodies. That's why education is so important. And that's why I'm here. I have real life examples of how more education would have saved me almost 4 years of self-exploration and self-diagnoses. I would love to have gotten this information from my health care providers. I would love for my daughter, who's now 17, to sail in to her midlife. Just like already she's excited about becoming a mom and going through pregnancy. She has all the information she needs to know about that. I want her to feel as excited about her midlife years as she does becoming a new mom. Why? Because I know these years over 40 are some of the best years of a woman's life. And we deserve to live in good health, to have good information so that we can make good, solid decisions for our own health. And that is why I'm here. And a few statistics I just want to add that 1.3 million women transition into menopause each year. By the year 2030, 1.2 billion women around the world will be in menopause. And here's a big one. I know it's far away for me. It might be far away for you too. But in 2060, 90 million women around the world will be navigating menopause. And I think they need education, and doctors need to be retooled to take care of them in the best way possible.
All right, so there's a little bit of Halle Berry talking yesterday about this bipartisan bill in the Wisconsin Legislature that would basically have the Department of Health Services engage in partnerships with healthcare providers, physicians and others to basically create more resources, more fact-based information that the providers can share, that the state and county health departments can share. All in all, to say, Kristin, that more fact-based educational materials can never be a bad thing.
This is why it's a problem, because when I was in training back in the early 2000s, it was soon after a huge study came out that made us all afraid to use hormone therapy, to prescribe hormone therapy. It was called the Women's Health Initiative Study. It was a great study, but the way that it was put together, the way that the results were interpreted really created a panic, and we are still living with the results of that panic. As a result of that, doctors haven't been trained on how to take care of people going through menopause. So I got 30 minutes of menopause in my medical school training. I got a full hour of man-opause, about 30 minutes of menopause. So we don't know how. We haven't been trained to do this. So if you are somebody who is seeking care and you are not getting a satisfying answer from your doctor, it's because our training system has been flawed. This is not just a Band-Aid. This helps to fix it on the end where patients are seeking the care that they need. It helps to train doctors who are already out in practice and give them that additional information. It is so incredibly important, not just for your sex life or to treat your hot flashes, but to treat your cardiovascular health. After you go through menopause, your risk of having a heart condition, of dying from a heart attack, actually goes up significantly. But we can mediate that risk if we do it well. And that is what this bill is intended to do.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that part, because my follow-up question was going to be, again, to take the I guess the extreme view of, why would we bother? It's something we all go through. Why don't you just, rub some dirt on it and everything will be fine? But there is research that can be done. There can be more to recognize symptoms, but also to treat symptoms. This is not just something, it's just a phase that you go through. It is a medical condition.
So many people have just suffered unnecessarily. And that's an option. Like, you can just stick it out if you want to, but there are options for you, and it's not just hormones. But the long-term real thing to think about is, what are your risks as you are marching forward in life? How are you aging? You need to look at your family history. You need to look at your own personal history. What's going on with your cholesterol, your blood pressure? All of that stuff factors into your risk profile. And without understanding what your personal risk profile is, you can't take the best possible care of yourself. And menopause is a huge contributor to heart disease in women after we go through menopause. We don't talk about that either, but now we're going to start having that conversation.
Now, this is just not the state bill that Halle Berry was speaking up in favor of. Last year, she did an appearance with Senator Tammy Baldwin about a congressional bill. That one would have called for more federal funding for research, for treatments, for a host of other things that in the areas of resources and research. So, I mean, there is ample work that can be done at the federal level as well as the state level to help, like they said, the millions of women who will be going through this transition.
Very true. And we know that we are kind of at a research standstill right now in this country. So it's really hard to get research dollars to do any sort of meaningful research. But historically, so much of the research that we've done has been on men, not on women.
Yeah.
So many of the results that we have on fundamental things like heartburn and heart disease and the medications that we use are only really applicable to men. And so we need more data, more information on women, not just about menopause, but about everything.
Yeah, she talked about that leading up to that soundbite that we played, that of the 3 health problems that she outlined. One of them, a doc thought it was maybe some kind of an autoimmune disorder, but they couldn't really tell because almost all of the studies on this autoimmune disorder had been done on men.
Mhm.
And so it was hard to say. Now, a couple of the folks who also spoke, legislators, including Senate Democratic leader Dianne Hasselbein and State Representative Robin Binding, they also shared that they have had some, personal experiences dealing with menopause and with, education and resources to basically make the point, as Senator Hasselbein said, Dr. Google can only take you so far. When you go to your doctor, your provider, you want to know that they're the ones that are going to have all the latest information at their fingertips.
And there's a lot of information out there that maybe isn't so great, because what happened after the Women's Health Initiative, when we stopped talking about it as doctors and as patients seeking care, it opened up this whole alternative universe. And there is value there, but a lot of that information is not validated. A lot of the supplements are not well studied. And frankly, supplements are not FDA regulated. So you don't really know what's in the supplements that you're taking. So if you are seeking care for your menopausal symptoms in one of those alternative spaces, it's really important to know who your providers are, what kind of care that is, and what kind of evidence and data backs that up. If you are not getting comprehensive care, that preventive care that I talked about earlier to ward off heart disease and cancer and other things, you absolutely need to be plugged in with your regular doctor who can provide that kind of care and screening.
Where does it stand in terms of, specialists? In other words, if say you're seeing a general practitioner, an internist, family practice, and you have concerns and you want to go see either an OBGYN or some other specialty, is it still a matter that a lot of plans require a direct referral? You can't just ring up somebody and say, I have questions?
That's a great question. I don't know. My plan doesn't. I can go see whoever I want. I don't have to. It's not like an HMO. And I really want people to seek out those alternatives. Don't feel like you're locked in. If somebody says, no, I don't have the answer, don't feel like that's the end of your road. Keep advocating for yourself, and your doctor should be advocating for you as well.
Yeah. So again, that's Halle Berry talking about a state bill, but also federal bills that are out there to work on education and resources, and because more research, more resources, more education, better informed doctors and patients. Those are never bad things. Dr. Kristin Lyerly is with us, and we will wrap things up with some final news and notes on a Wednesday morning here on These Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. Back in just a bit. Doobadoo. All right.
I didn't say herpes.
No, you didn't. You didn't say herpes. Yay, you.
You get a gold star.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. So one direction I could go in is I talked to Lucy Ripp at A Better Wisconsin Together. I haven't edited it yet, so it might be used Thursday, Friday, or Monday, but talks about Tom Tiffany, Eric Toney, and Maria Lazar, and basically their hostility toward, choice and women's health care. Eric Toney, of course, got into the race yesterday for Attorney General. You're okay talking about all those things, right? Because it's Fond du Lac County. He's the DA. It's if the Sheboygan County DA were running for something, maybe you'd
That
be a
case
little.
is done. Supreme Court has ruled, so I
Okay,
don't have to
so
worry about it.
you'd have been okay even if that had been the case. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're good on that. All right, sounds good. I will be back in just a bit here. Okay. A second here. Must refuel.
35 seconds.
You also had, didn't you just do a video about Trump promised such and such for IVF? Yeah. Should we start with that?
Yeah.
All right. Will do. And your show. Don't forget the show, Pat. Don't forget the show.
20 seconds.
Sorry.
Secret show.
You can catch the Dr. Kristin Lyerly Show every Saturday at noon all across the Civic Media Radio Network. You can also subscribe and follow at Spotify and other podcast platforms.
And YouTube.
How they do. And YouTube. Yeah. Other platforms. Look, Pat didn't forget the promo this time. And then, of course, in between the shows, you're making all kinds of videos about things. We'll get into that as well. But what are you talking about on this weekend's edition of the Dr. Kristin Lyerly Show?
Well, we were going to talk to Fran Hong, but we're going to put that off until next week because with all of this menopause enthusiasm, we decided to highlight menopause. There's a new clinic opening up in Wausau. It's actually open now, and it's called Pause Medicine. They focus on menopause. They focus on sexual health and well-being. It's run by a board-certified OBGYN doc who actually is a breast cancer survivor. Here we are in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we talk about all of those things, what this means for women's health, some of the complexities of the actual treatment. And it's a great conversation, especially if you enjoyed our previous segment about menopause.
Coming up this Saturday, replayed on Sunday, but again, get it as a podcast. Look for it on YouTube as well. And again, you're doing videos in between on various subjects as they come up. And I saw that you did one recently on what President Trump promised last year on the campaign trail about IVF versus what have we seen so far in the 9 months of his administration.
Remember, he said he was the father of IVF.
The father of IVF. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to make it affordable and accessible for everybody. So the plan finally came out. And it is disappointing to say the least. Essentially, there will be, according to the executive order, a discount on some of the medications, which is helpful for some people. But otherwise, it's just a suggestion to insurance companies that they should provide this treatment. There are no mandates. There is no true follow through. It really doesn't make it more accessible or less expensive for most families.
This is the concepts of a plan approach. When he was asked, what's your healthcare plan? Don't you have a plan? I have concepts of a plan. This is at best concepts of a plan about IVF.
He's trying to walk a really, really thin line because the anti-abortion people who supported him and helped him get elected are not for IVF. When you do IVF, you create multiple embryos, and that creates an ethical dilemma for him. So out of one side of his mouth, he's saying one thing, out of the other side, he's saying another thing. We've all gotten used to that. But the bottom line is, if you are seeking fertility treatment and you need IVF and you were expecting Trump to come through for you, he has not.
No, you feel like a soybean farmer or a beef rancher right now in the United States. Yeah, you're in good company. All kinds of folks that are in there. Now, there are candidates who are running for office that again still have challenging views on women's health care rights. And I am going to be talking to Lucy Ripp from A Better Wisconsin Together about this, about candidates and their stances on women's health. And we cover everything from Congressman Tom Tiffany, who's running for governor, to appeals court judge Maria Lazar, who's running for Wisconsin Supreme Court, to Eric Toney, the Fond du Lac County District Attorney, who is now going to be running again for Attorney General against Josh Kaul. And, Lucy points out in those three and in others, voters are going to either have a clear choice when it comes to women's health care rights, or they're going to have to cut through some fog. We've talked about Tom Tiffany trying to have things both ways when it comes to this topic.
Well, that is what we're seeing with the GOP right now. They know that when it comes to abortion rights, that Americans want access to abortion. We've seen it over and over again in some of the reddest states in this country. When abortion is on the ballot, abortion wins because abortion is health care. So now what they're trying to do is sneak it in the back door in all these little tricky ways by having the FDA take another look at medication abortion access, by this whole IVF thing, by not fully embracing it. They are trying to find all these ways to prevent people from getting full, comprehensive reproductive health care. I'm committed to providing it. My colleagues are committed to providing it, not just in the office, but making sure that our patients can get it universally. So it's going to come down to abortion again, and we are not standing down.
No, I mean, women have made that clear, and their allies have made this clear in vote after vote after vote. And that's why the only reason they can sneak things through, like this current backdoor ban, from the big bloated bill with boondoggle or with Planned Parenthood, holding off on abortion care in Wisconsin, is again through the back door. When things are put up and you let the people choose and they vote their values, they vote for women.
They vote for women. They vote for healthcare. People want to make their own healthcare decisions, whether we're talking about preventive care, reproductive care, it doesn't matter. When you go to the doctor, you want to be able to tell your story, hear about all of your options, and make the decision that is best for you, not the decision that a politician says you can have.
Now, we'll close with the very convenient scheduling of Dr. Lyerly going to Pittsburgh for conferences, just as the Packers are going to be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. And of course, Kristin, living in Green Bay, probably was coffee buddies with Aaron Rodgers and just couldn't tell us. You got to keep these things hush. Any chance you're recording an interview with him for an upcoming show or anything like that?
He's my birthday buddy, actually. We have
That's
the same
right.
birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, we split ways though over COVID. I was a little frustrated with him when he was deceitful. Leaders don't do that. You don't put your colleagues in danger. So yeah, I lost a lot of respect for him there.
Well, it'll make it easier to root against him have you found a way to actually go to the game?
Oh yeah, I got my tickets yesterday.
Oh, of course you do. Of course.
The question is, Pat, how am I going to pack my cheese head in my carry-on? It takes up a lot of room.
Yes. Well, that could be your personal item. You just wear it on board the plane, and you hope the person in the seat behind you is all right with that and can still see the video on how to buckle a seatbelt. I always love that. Here's how to buckle a seatbelt. Thanks, guys. Could I have more than a bag of pretzels, please? Anyway, safe travels out there. We will talk to you Friday and again Monday. Monday from Pittsburgh, maybe. Sounds
Both
like fun.
from Pittsburgh.
All right. That's great.
All right.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
All right. Matt and Air on Air is coming up next. Thanks to all of you for being with us today. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. We'll see you bright and early back here up north, 6 a.m. Have a great day.
Is it bright